Hello and welcome. I'm Dan McDermott. This is Google Plus Week with the aforementioned Dan McDermott. Joining me is a carefully culled panel of expert geeks from Google Plus and technical wizards and Anthony. Just kidding. I got to pick on Anthony because he sounds and looks good now, so I can't pick on him. But Alan Furstenberg in New York. Welcome, Alan. Always a pleasure, sir.
Always good to be here, Dan.
We have Mr. Anthony Klauser in Rochester, New York, who looks surprisingly pixelated, despite his new cool cam and lighting setup. We have Father Bruce Turner joining us.
T for testosterone. Glad to be here. From
Lynchburg, Virginia. Looking snazzy, we have Mr. Craig Shipp from CraigShipp.com, Hangout10.com, Frederick.com, and I'm not going to go on because he literally has like a $1,200 a month URL bill, so we'll just leave it at those biggies there.
Somebody has to keep them in business.
Gary Levin, MD, joins us from California, if I'm not mistaken.
Rabbi Levin, shalom.
Absolutely. Welcome, sir. Always a pleasure. Jeff Zayas, who is the rebel in the group.
Oh, yes. I'm reveling in airport noise.
Indeed. He is the organizer of the San Francisco annual air show. And
laser tag event.
Yes. Michael Banks, who's always energetic.
Bouncing up and down on his balls.
It's only one.
Oh.
But that was an unfortunate visual I just got in my head. Michael, welcome, sir. Always a pleasure. Sreek Menon joins us from Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
No, New Jersey. Plainsboro, New Jersey.
He used to say just out of New York. He was until Chris Christie blew up. He gave his great convention speech. Now he's like, I'm from New Jersey.
I moved to Princeton, Plainsboro, so which is a good area. So I agree. I'm in New Jersey now.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's go to our first topic, which let's go to Vietnam. Apparently, Brazil has Orkut, and Vietnam has Google Plus. So I'm going to throw it to Alan because all I know is the headline he wrote here, and I just made that up, and I hope it's accurate.
Well, it's close enough, actually. This is a post by Mike Elgin this week, and he was getting it from eMarketer.com, I believe, where they determined the number of active Google Plus users in various countries for the second quarter, compared it against the number of internet users in that country, and got the ratio. And Vietnam has about 42% of its internet users. Who knew they had that many internet users at all? Are using Google Plus. And some other incredibly huge ratios. Mexico had 32%. Argentina is 32%. Russia's got 25%. Saudi Arabia had 38% of its internet population is using Google Plus, while in the United States, a whopping 6% of the internet users are using Google Plus. So, the headline I gave it was, is Google Plus a ghost town? Well, in Vietnam it isn't. In Saudi Arabia it isn't. I think this explains why we get a lot of
it's bigger
messages in Arabic.
It's bigger than Jelly Bean in the United States.
Yeah, but what isn't?
It's bigger than Jelly Bean .2.
We're going to get to this later.
All right. So that's awesome. So we welcome all of our Vietnamese viewers to Google Plus Week. This is the longest running show on Google Plus. That is about Google Plus that has Alan and Dan and Mike and the others.
And when we say longest running, we don't just mean every Friday night, even though it is probably the longest running show on Friday night.
Yes, we are many Guinness records.
Friday night, for that matter.
Indeed. Okay, so your local reviews now in your profile. Tell us about this change, Mr.
Yeah, this was a horrible new change that they added. What? It's horrible. It's hideous. But let me describe it first, and then we'll discuss exactly how bad it is, Michael. Basically, it's a new link that's available in your profile that says local, and it provides a link to all of the local reviews that you've done using Google Local. The reason why I say it's horrible is that this is now the only thing in your profile besides your name that you can't disable. You can't turn it off. You can't make it private. You can't limit it to specific groups. It is public. and you have no way to make it non-public.
Now, let me tell you why that's... How many people throughout the panel have even made a review?
Alan.
Now, mind you, I will say that I did make a review, but I, for the most part, don't make reviews because those reviews are public. And I think that breaks Google Plus's model as well.
Well, okay, but also, did this change coincide with the is it Zagat or Zagat or
it was about the same time as the new Zagat rate is the change to the rating system.
So that was kind of a weird rating system. I mean, it was a 0 to 3.
Well, it's not a weird rating system if you live in New York City and you know Zagat's rating guide.
How does it break the model, Alan?
It breaks the model because now this is a piece of data that if you use it, you are forced to be public with it. Whereas everything else that's tied to Google Plus, I can limit it to my circles. Google local ratings are not.
If you review something, shouldn't you assume that that's going to be public? I mean, isn't that the purpose of a review?
Yeah, no. that's the obvious question, Alan. If you these are reviews where?
A Zagat review itself is not public, or at least it didn't used to be when Zagat had reviews.
Aren't we talking about like business reviews? Like
we're talking every type of review.
But these are public places. These are public places that you're reviewing.
Yeah.
So? Okay, so if the place is public and it's about the place, isn't it assumed to be public?
Michael,
why would you write a review? Why would you write a review if you didn't want anyone to read the review?
I might want people to read the review, but I might only want my friends to read the review. Or I might want to have a review, and if I'm rating the business quite poorly, I would not want my name visible to it, but I might still want to have the owner know my review. That's one. Two, if I have a web page, for example, I could +1 that web page, but the owner would not, the owner would know that they got a +1, but not necessarily from me.
So, in other words, you're saying you might want, because you can't privately do a review. You're saying that you might want visitors to Joe's hardware store on Google Maps to see the review there, but you might not want it to be associated with your more widely available Google Plus profile. Is that what you're saying?
I might not want a name attached to that review. And in fact, I might, if I'm looking at a site, if I'm evaluating a store that I want to go to and I'm looking at the reviews, I might see, oh gee, there are 5 people who reviewed it anonymously. I don't really care about those. I can discard them because, who knows what they are.
But if you review them anonymously, you wouldn't see them.
Well, I'm saying that I may or may not want to see them if they were anonymous reviews.
So really what Alan's saying is he wants more controls when he does the initial review. He wants more controls at that point, and that would pretty much solve the problem.
Well, that and, then I wouldn't have this stupid link on my profile.
What is the circumstance under which you could give an anonymous review that would show up in your Google Plus profile?
Right now, there isn't one. Why?
I don't understand what your beef is. If the only reviews that would show up are reviews that you do while logged into your Google account on a public site that's public anyway. You're just
not on a public site. Okay. It's a review, a public review on Google Local, but that's the only thing we're allowed to do on Google Local, and I'm saying this as a whole breaks the Google Plus model. It breaks how Google Plus is designed to be used by their own statements.
So, all they did basically was bring something that's already on the web public in another area and linked it right here.
Yes, and I'm saying they shouldn't have done so.
And he can't remove it. He can't control that part of his profile. And I agree that he should be able to remove that if he doesn't want it in there.
Alan, what are the websites, or is it just Sagat or any other institutions or businesses we can review? I mean, not just restaurants. And where does that review actually appear? Is it just appears on Google Plus?
No, again, this is part of the Google Plus is part of Google. It's overlays all of Google. So it basically appears everywhere that Google Local appears, and that means it's tied directly into Google Maps.
Yeah, so like if I search for McDonald's and I wrote a review on that McDonald's, it'll have my review in that little area with my profile on it.
So what happens if, let's say, you wrote a review and somebody not in your friend circle or not somebody who has circled you, searched for it, will it appear as a public review in the Google search?
Yeah, of course.
But they can't access it through a search. They have to go to the actual place. They have to be searching for the restaurant or the place you reviewed. They can't just search for your.
But no, they can't just. Well, can they just search for yours? If they're doing a search for you, what'll come up in Google search? How do you know what'll come up?
I've looked for it.
How do you know what'll come up next week?
Yeah, it definitely looks like a kind of a privacy breach.
No, it's not a privacy breach because they're pretty upfront about the fact that your reviews are public.
It's a public breach.
I'm just saying that it is a breach of the design of the system. Here is Google saying, hey, you share just what you want with just the people you want, except for reviews, which have to be shared publicly.
I guess, obviously the reason they would do this is to push their whole local pages.
Right, but I think they could have pushed local pages in a better way by allowing you to rate things and then only share those ratings publicly with people that you want to. So for example, if I write a review on something and I share it with you guys, you'll see my name attached to that review because I've shared it with you.
Is it on your page or is it on the page?
On the page for what I've reviewed.
But it's not your review.
What he's complaining about, if I understand correctly, is he does this review of this restaurant on Google Local, and then that comes into his Google Plus profile.
It does. That's not what he's saying, right, Alan?
Whether he wants it or not, it comes in there, and he has no control over that.
Is it on your profile page or is it on that local page under your profile name?
It's only a link to the local area where
from my profile.
It is on your profile.
But it's
There's a link on my profile that says, that I reviewed 4 sites or 10 sites or 100 sites.
What if you reviewed embarrassing things? But if you
if you've done publicly. Exactly.
But
all
these were done. But this is only if you did it in a public review.
There's only a public review.
There's only public reviews now. Every review that you make is attached to an account.
Well, look at this disclaimer. I'm on their page right now, and I'm wanting to do a review on a local coffee shop, and I get this disclaimer. It says,
Anthony, we're getting a low hum audio buzz from you of some sort. It sounds like a grounding issue. I'm not sure what. Go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah. So it says, associated photos are visible. Your reviews and photos are in bold print, visible to everyone on the web under the name Bruce Turner. Your reviews and associated photos are displayed to 1. Anyone who views your profile on Google+. 2. Anyone who searches for places if they've added you to their Google+ circles. And 3. Anyone who views places you've reviewed. So, with this disclaimer, I don't see any problem with this.
Well, here's the thing. Google was very upfront that they were doing it this way. And I don't have a problem with the fact, I don't have a problem with their disclosure about it. But, and this is something that I said when they first rolled out Google Local, this violates the underlying premise of Google+. And that is you share only what you want with only the people that you want. Basically, this is like saying that all your posts in Google+ must be public.
And it's not smart on the part of Google to do it this way. And my guess is they'll probably fix it because the problem here is that if I do want to do a review, let's say I want to do a review and I want to just share it with my circles. I don't have that option. So many times what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, I'm not going to do the review.
Exactly.
But if you can do the review as opposed to a limited amount of people, and just not on local. So why even bother doing it? Why even bother doing it on local if you're just going to share a post with a limited number of people about a review that you
Jeff, then it's not a real review. Then it's not a real review. If they had reviews that actually fit the circle model, then what would happen is that the rating still could go to the place, but it could be weighted by the fact that I'm not doing it publicly. It could show a different weighting for my friends versus people who aren't my friends. If I'm just doing if I'm just doing a review as a post, that never goes into local.
Let me couple comments. Diana Ridley, couldn't you just make a weird username or whatever and rate it like that instead? Alan, I would say, yeah, you could, but that's a hassle. I guess the thing is, like, let's say in the past 5 years you have reviewed multiple things, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alan, this is your beef. Let's say over the last 5 years, you reviewed multiple things, maybe some scathing or some embarrassing or for whatever reason. And let's say you're a big Dungeons and Dragons fanatic, but you may not want people to know that on Google Plus because you use this for professional reasons without your consent or knowledge, or all of a sudden, all those reviews forever are now stuck on your profile page, and now you're associated with those when really you may not necessarily have a different persona, but maybe using this for professional reasons.
Sure. Well,
yeah, I'm looking at that blow up doll review right now.
You can always change your review.
Is that
you can always change your review.
Is that a good example?
So what?
Is that the
no,
issue?
that's exactly. I mean, if you really want to use a good example, you talk about, Dan, how you went and reviewed the nudist bar, and how you don't necessarily want your clients to know the fact that you're, visiting topless bars.
Actually worked there. I don't want to brag. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I don't go to nudist bars. And then David Cox, I did a review of a local music store. I just did a search using Google Maps. Go ahead, Alan.
I did a review of a local music store. I just did a search using Google Maps in another browser, and when he was logged out, and my review comes up. When I click on it, it brings it to the local page. And this is exactly the point. You're making reviews that are public and attached to your name. And if you are willing to have them public and attached to your name, great, that's fine. It's just like making a post that is public and attached to your name. But sometimes you make posts that you don't want public. Just like sometimes you should be able to make reviews that are not public.
All right, so we can move.
So Google just needs to add more controls, and that'll make everybody happy, and they should do that because they should want people to do as many reviews as possible.
Right, they should do this, but the fact that they didn't do it up front means that the local team did not understand Google+. And that shocks me not at all.
But they cannot fix that. How will you make something private on one platform?
You're right, you can't fix it!
That's why you make it public on both!
What do you mean? No, you can't fix it because you screwed it up from the beginning.
It has to be public.
If they had done it right from the beginning, they wouldn't be in this mess.
It has to be public.
No, it doesn't have to be. Why does it have to be public?
It's a review. If you go to a restaurant...
Michael, Zagat's reviews used to be private. You used to have to send in postcards to Zagat. Okay? You didn't have everybody's name attached to it.
Once you send it, they can do what they want with it, right?
Sure, but they they didn't publish your name to it. In fact, all of the Google local reviews up until it was called Google Local just say a Google user. They don't have your name attached to it. They didn't need to attach your name to it. They did it because they didn't understand the system.
I guess when they said we've shipped the Plus part, now we're going to ship the Google, I guess they weren't kidding.
Do we all agree?
We all agree.
I don't know, but
okay, so
Alan's beginning to scare me now.
Here's Kevin. Google Plus Local understands local. They just don't care. I think they understand local. They just don't understand Google Plus.
Okay. Someone bring a mild sedative to New York.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a mild sedative. You can't wait till I get to some of the topics on the list tonight.
All right.
It's going to be a fun time.
There's got to be something in soundboard that would be appropriate for this level of...
and at the end, we will talk about the debate, but after we get through all the tech stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. I saw a thing on my phone. I rarely use my phone now that I've got my beautiful Nexus 7. But I saw that there was a new app. Alan, tell us about this for Google Plus, the new Google Plus mobile app.
Google Plus Mobile is now upgraded to version 3.2. If you haven't upgraded, don't bother. There is virtually no reason for you to actually upgrade to it. This is such a bad upgrade that there are seriously people who are looking at a downgrade again to 3.1. There are two major features that they outlined. The first is that you can now switch to manage a page, and this was actually a good feature. Because now, previously you weren't able to post, you weren't able to manage your page using your mobile phone. Now you can. All you need to do is log out and log back in. Which you've got to wonder who in the world came up with this brilliant scheme. Now, mind you, they could easily fix this if they just changed the menu item from log out to switch accounts or switch account/pages, and it did the exact same thing. they'd be fine. But no, they had to call it log out and confuse everyone in the freaking world.
But it's worse than that, Alan. You've got to re-enter your password and everything.
You don't always have to re-enter your password. At least, if not if you're using a real operating system.
What about the new home screen widget?
I haven't tried the new home screen widget. How is it?
It's all right.
So you're saying on Android you don't have to enter your password when you switch over to Pages?
No.
Then how come I have to on iOS?
Because you're using a crappy operating system?
Because on Android, go figure, you're logged into Google's services through the phone.
All the time.
Well, why don't they write it like that for iOS?
Because iOS
It's not a Google device.
iOS does not support that kind of integration.
They probably aren't allowed to for various
integrated
Why don't they make the
integrated
iOS
with
app?
Facebook and Twitter, but not Google Plus, because Google
they
Plus
don't like
is a
Google
redheaded
Plus.
stepchild?
Yeah. Hey, listen, this thing goes both ways. I wish that I was so excited about the update. Oh, good. Maybe I'll be able to join a Hangout on Air through my iPhone now. But, of course, I can use my Bluetooth headset on my iOS, which you guys can't do on your Android phone in a Hangout. So, it's kind of crazy.
I will tell you that the app finally
Whoa, hang on a second. Bruce, really?
You cannot use a Bluetooth headset on your iPhone or your Android device and use it in a Hangout.
You're crazy.
No, I'm not crazy.
Craig.
I had a Nexus 7.
Not an Nexus 7, a phone.
Craig, you should grab that domain.
I shouldn't do it on my iPhone, though.
You should grab that domain, Craig, Android. Wouldn't that be great for an Android fan site, which I know you would obviously...
Absolutely. I'm all over that.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway,
Dan, I will say that the iOS app does finally work now. It was not even usable for the upgrade.
It finally works, except when it doesn't. I mean, because I've gotten people who have asked me why the +1 no longer works, and I say hit +1 a few more times and eventually it will. I've gotten people who have reported that comments are disappearing, that posts are disappearing. This is a buggy release.
So far, mine works on my iPhone. So far, and before it wouldn't work at all. It was totally kludgy. They did fix some bugs and they introduced some more. So this is still a buggy release.
So they're consistent
on both operating systems.
Yes, on both operating systems, it's a buggy release.
Okay.
Now the other feature that they claim to have introduced, and I say claim to have introduced because I haven't figured out what they actually introduced, but they say that it's now easier and better to find people. And I don't know. I went and compared the app, the thing about finding people on my phone to what it looks like in the old app that I still left running on my tablet, and they look the same almost. So I have no idea what they think they introduced in this version. Has anybody with the new version looked at it and been able to figure out what the new people finder is supposed to do?
It seems like they just integrated the suggest user list into the app. That's
now, but here's the thing: it had the suggested user list before, and it doesn't scroll, and it doesn't scroll correctly in the new one.
It does for me.
It doesn't for me.
I think when you log in, it gives you a list of people who can be. It's like the Facebook's friend finder kind of a thing, where you can either X mark them and kick them out. There is a bug in there which I saw a few minutes back. But anyway, so what I'm saying is you can circle. It suggests you a bunch of users, not the infamous suggested user list, but people who Google kind of guesses that probably is your friend.
But didn't it have that before?
But
No.
did they have it in the Google Plus? App on the cell phone? I don't think so.
I do, because I remember if I looked at my user list, I thought there was a tab for suggested people.
Not sure.
Does it allow for you to kind of join a hangout from people that are in your circle that are existing in the hangout that you can search and see?
I tried joining Dan's hangout through my cell phone while I was in this hangout. Maybe, I don't know, I couldn't join. I couldn't even see the hangout.
No,
you have to be invited to get an invite, and then you can come in, or you have to physically know the link, but you can't see people that you know that are in hangouts and then join from
But he's on
All the way
iOS.
you can do that.
Come in.
I am invited, and I couldn't see the invite.
The only way you can do that if you go to that person's profile and then you already have an invite.
Check that. There's no invite.
Yeah, but that's
The invite
crazy,
is there,
right?
But I don't have an option to get into the hangout.
Yeah, but if it's a Hangout on Air, iOS can't join it.
I thought that
no mobile device can join it.
Android.
No, Android
Yeah, you
can.
can.
Android can join it. Yeah, we've been able to since at least 3.1.
So
Yeah.
for some reason, I thought this particular new release on iOS actually is going to fix that.
No.
No,
So then what is the difference? Because even in the previous version, you could actually start a Hangout with iOS, right?
I have it on
Sure.
good authority that it's a priority and they're working on it.
Yeah. We got this comment from David Cox. Didn't circles used to be on the main menu? I used to be able to click on circles and see a list of people there if I am not mistaken. You're not mistaken. And that was replaced by this new People Finder thing.
Where? Which main menu? Are you talking about Android or iOS?
No,
I know on Android.
And Android.
Oh,
on the
okay,
thing.
but in iOS, you still have it on the main menu.
On Android, we essentially do still have it on the main menu. They use the same icon for this People Finder, and it has the same function. You just need to use it you just need to go there and click on the circles drop down.
Yeah, just drop down below, find people, and you'll see all your circles. And
It's there. It's the same as it was before. They just messed it around a little bit.
So do you think they should have a beta test group that they can bounce this stuff off before they implement
They
it?
do. I'm sure they do.
It's called. Yeah, they do.
Really?
Yeah, they probably dog fooded this internally for a while.
But not internally, but externally.
Well, you think they trust us?
Yeah, I think they should.
There are certain users that have the ability to beta test some of these products. It's a small group, but there are people outside of Google that do this.
And Michael can't comment if he's one of them.
I am not one of them.
He cannot confirm or deny.
Yeah, he'd have to kill us or something.
Yeah.
All right, so
He'd have
we
to
all
block
agree
us.
we're very excited about this new release, which was obviously
We're just thrilled.
Tailored for to promote pages and in Vietnam. Okay, so mirror, mirror.
Mirror, mirror on the wall. We no longer have mirroring problems in Hangouts for selected apps. So a lot of people who use Hangout lower thirds or Hangout toolboxes, it's now been integrated into, or if you use Comment Tracker, or if you use Caption, one of the problems was always that when you displayed the text to the screen and you looked at your own image, it would be backwards. And it was absolutely infuriating for people. Now, when you display that text, if the app writer made it correct, your text is now displayed to you so that you can read it.
Mine's backwards still.
Well, I don't know what app you're using then. Because
The lower third app.
Oh, nobody uses lower thirds anymore.
Hangout Toolbox.
Use Hangout Toolbox instead. Lower thirds is so last week.
Okay.
No, basically, Moritz incorporated all of his major Hangout apps, including lower thirds, the audio one, some of his various other overlay stuff. That's now all incorporated into Hangout Toolbox.
And so we should migrate.
And you should migrate immediately because he's no longer supporting the old one.
Okay.
Gotcha.
That's good.
So this is a minor API change that only 10 people noticed and cared about, but it has a big impact because this feature has been wanted by lots of people.
It was it wasn't so much like a devastating thing. It was more you'd constantly have to explain to people when they were trying an app. Right. Especially you, because you're an app developer, so you'd have to explain like, no, it's fine, we can see it right. It's just for you. But if you're trying to type something out, it's irritating to have to.
It's
type
irritating.
backwards.
It's confusing. This was a minor change with a major impact, and I think there are a lot of people that are now thrilled to see these features.
Much like Google Plus Week, it's irritating and confusing.
By the way, how do I remove the lower third app if I want to remove
You
that?
can't.
You cannot do that. It's not. You can't do it. You can revoke access to it, but it'll still be there.
Really? You can't get rid of the button?
Nope.
You just gotta put another app to.
Don't get Alan started.
That's a serious fail.
That's
serious. Do you really want to know how serious a fail it is? I can tell you how serious a fail it is.
All right.
That I believe. Okay.
Save an exorcism.
Now, Alan, one of the things a lot of folks like is the event. The ability to create an event and have people comment on it, and they've got
people just
cool
love
new
events.
themes.
I see billions and billions of events in my stream every day.
Sadly,
I think this is the
too.
most used feature in all of Google Plus.
I get all kinds of crazy events, crazy posts. I have one guy who every day shares with me obscure feats of engineering written completely in Arabic. So it's some strange machine, and it's written completely in Arabic. I have no idea what it is. It's like sometimes on a highway you see these strange machines, and they're
Have
doing
you thought
something.
of using Google Translate?
No, to be honest, I'm not that interested. But I'm a nice guy, so I haven't said anything, and I wouldn't know how to communicate with him either way. I'm not going to.
But does it come in as an event?
Okay, no, I was off on a rare ADD moment. But anyway, events got a little getting into the Halloween spirit. Tell us about that.
Yeah, they're getting kind of creepy, aren't they?
Indeed.
And now you're going to be able to create events with some specially designed animated pictures, graphics, some spooky banners, so that when you're inviting people to your Halloween party, it looks like you're inviting them to a Halloween party as opposed to a birthday party.
Bad, right?
So some of these are actually pretty nice. It's nice to see that they're putting some nice animated graphics into these things, and it's a nice bit of fun, a bit of whimsy. So it's pretty fun.
Whimsy.
It was really interesting.
Whimsy, isn't that what I said?
It was interesting how when we were talking with Chi a couple shows ago, he said how women love using the mustaches in Hangouts, and some of these things, they often start out as 20% projects because Google, for folks who don't know, Google allows, they encourage you to pursue some non-pivotal or non-core role for 20% a day. And a lot of their fun, neat things, like the mustache ability in Hangouts, started that way. But this is probably, they asked for it. Go ahead. We got a comment?
Yeah, we got a comment from Margie. She suggests that you should dress up for Halloween or do a special spooky hangout on air soon.
Well, we actually were rehearsing apparently earlier in the hangout, so maybe I'll go as.
Stay tuned. You never know what will come up on Google Plus Week.
Maybe I'll don some sort of unusual outfit.
Craig has his Halloween outfit on already. That's pretty spooky.
Craig is looking very snazzy. He's got the Ronald Reagan handkerchief in his pocket, and his mic is muted. Perhaps is
Margie ready to come in?
Margie's, I don't know, sometimes she comes in, sometimes she's aloof on these things. Okay, so one of the things we like to talk about a lot is discovery, trying to meet new people. And there's a new feature. You can... well, go ahead, Alan. Profile photos.
Yeah, this one was announced just this evening, just a few hours ago. One of the Google interns announced that his project's now been incorporated into Google+, and it lets you, when you're looking at your friend's photos, you can now mark one of them and say, hey, I think this photo would make a good profile photo for you. So this is now, it's not one of those big changes, but it's a nice little change so that your friends now are interacting on a photo and say, hey, I think this is a good look for you, or hey, your old profile photo, sucks. So use this one of a cat instead. It's a little bit of whimsy. It's a little cute. Nothing terribly exciting, but it's these little touches that that Google incorporates every so often.
Kind of gives you a warm fuzzy.
Yeah, we'll go with warm fuzzy, sure.
Yeah, more like a hairball.
Okay, so I want to, Alan, how do I bring up our next topic? Is involving. I haven't had the opportunity to discuss my beautiful Nexus 7 lately, so I wanted to go ahead and. How do you bring up the thing where it shows the jelly bean in the 4.1? Okay, here we go. I have this.
Now hold it. Touch the screen and hold it.
I know the Easter egg.
Yeah. No, touch and hold it.
Okay, well, you touch it once and you get the little face, and then you touch it again. You touch and hold it, or do you? Okay,
Look,
there we go.
Yeah.
And then you get.
And you can move those around too.
You can fling those jelly beans around as well.
Yes, it's hours and hours of fun.
I returned my tablet. There.
Every crowd has to have one. Tell us, Jeff.
It's almost as good as an aquarium.
In the interest of fairness,
Jeff is bracing to buy an iPad Mini.
Let me bring out. I'm going to bring out the Martha Raddatz in me and ask Jeff. Tell me why did you return your tablet? And while he's talking, I'm going to show you this cool Easter egg thing here.
And anyway, I thought we were actually discussing the point here, which is that Android. Go ahead.
Let me finish. Let me
quickly. We'll do the negative, and then we'll sing its
sun
praises.
here. I returned the tablet because it's too small for my needs. It is too small. It is way too small. It's too small.
You get that a lot, Jeff.
I do get that a lot. I want a larger tablet. I want to be able to read it and type on it pretty easily. And
there are those sites on the internet.
Apple addressed that issue. They said that if you have an iPad and you want an iPad mini, you just have to hold it further away.
That's what my dad did. That's what my dad does in the restaurant when he's ordering.
I am encouraged. I am encouraged by the Samsung Nexus arrangement. Hopefully, that it might come out with a 10-inch tablet. So branded Nexus.
If you have a Nexus 7, just hold it closer.
Okay, so the iPad Mini, of course, I guess the rumored date is 11 days from our taping tonight, our show tonight, the 23rd of October.
And that's only the second or third rumored date of it so far, so you know.
It's not happening.
So, Alan Furstenberg, tell me, Android 4.1.2, do you have yours handy?
I do have mine handy, but I haven't upgraded to it yet because I've been waiting for my own rollout.
One more quick diversion to ask you about is when you first got it, and of course we all hated you because you
mean when I got my white-backed limited edition Nexus 7.
See, I wasn't.
That they're going to put out for $100 now. Yeah,
I wasn't going to go there. But anyway, so he was one of the lucky ones in his goodie bag to get the developer version. Did we ever find out, was that a special thing for I/O, or was that just the first versions they were thinking about going white and then they switched it?
I don't think anyone said one way or the other, but as far as I know, it's only been released at I/O.
That's something we need to ask Chi next time he's on. Okay, so when you first got it, you said you played with it initially, like your Cube, or Q, or whatever it is. But then you, is it the Q or the Cube?
Q, the letter Q.
I just realized in my small brain that they probably named it after the Star Trek character Q who lived in the Nexus.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
Did I just figure
he
that?
Live in the Nexus?
Did I just?
We have two people in this discussion.
Did I just figure something out?
Fascinating.
He lives in the Matrix, not the Nexus.
No, The Matrix was a different movie. Boy, are we getting off topic tonight.
But is that accurate? Am I right?
Q is in Star Trek.
Yes.
Yeah, Q is Star Trek. Yeah.
Star Trek. Yeah.
Yeah.
Q. Did he live in the Nexus?
We'll find out in a second. That's what Google searches for.
See, I'm smart. I thought I thought it was so. I just now randomly thought of that.
Making up facts, huh?
Again, yeah. Let me tell you.
Now,
a breaking Netflix scoop next. Okay, so let me ask you, Alan. Do you still? Initially, you said you weren't using it as often as you thought you would. Do you use it a lot now? Because I use it every day, all day. I mean, all the time.
No, I don't use it a lot. I still use it on occasion. I'll probably use it 1 or 2 times a week.
If it were 3G, if it were,
that wouldn't change my usage.
It wouldn't change your usage pattern.
No.
Okay.
Why do you not use it more often?
Because my Galaxy Nexus phone works fine for most of my needs.
That's true. See,
I'm in the same boat.
My Photon is 2 crap Android, so this is Jelly Bean.
Now, if you had a Jelly Bean phone, would you use the phone instead of that?
That's probably if I had like a Samsung Galaxy S3, which is a fairly large, almost too big for a phone, like a small tablet that happens to be a phone rather than a large phone. Go ahead, Alan. We got a comment from Stefan.
Yeah, we got this comment from Stefan. Love the Nexus 7. Showed it to many people in the last week, and they all want one. It's not really different to other 7-inch tablets. What do you think the appeal is?
The lightweight.
I think what I think the appeal is? I think the appeal is that it's a very cheap but very powerful 7-inch device.
Yes.
Especially when it came out, when it was compared to the original Kindle Fire, the specs were dramatic. Because that was what it was compared to. Now, if you compare... My mom just got... she is... As much as we are into the Google ecosystem, and Craig and Sreek are into the Apple ecosystem and the Google ecosystem. My mom is all about Kindle and Amazon, and so she bought a Kindle Fire HD, and I saw it, and it's beautiful. It's fast, and we actually, you know, the Transformers movie that comes free on the Nexus 7. I played that, and she played it because it's also in Amazon Prime videos apparently. So we played them side by side, and the picture was fairly equivalent, but the speakers on the Kindle HD were superior.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of reasons. One is that it's a fairly sleek-looking design for its price. I mean, it doesn't have the bevel edge. It's got the nice grippy back. It has some nice little touches that other inexpensive tablets don't necessarily have. You know, they're the ones that have got the huge bevel frame that sticks out. They look more plasticky. There are a lot of nice touches to the Nexus 7 that you don't see in other tablets in its price range.
And it's fast, and Bruce, let me go to Bruce, but also Alan, it's fast, and it's very stable.
Yeah, we just got this comment from Stefan. Speed of the Nexus is fantastic, and Jelly Bean is great.
Indeed.
Yeah. And just to be fair, we have this comment from Diana. You can play Frisbee with the Nexus 7.
She's not happy with any tablets. Didn't she return her iPad?
Yeah.
Or something? I forget.
She returned her iPad?
I think.
Good going.
She'll correct us. Go ahead, Bruce. What are you going to say?
Jeff has inspired me to make my confession. I did buy a Nexus 7. I've not been here in 2 weeks. I did buy a Nexus 7. I owned it for 8 days, and I took it back. I think it's interesting, too, that the rumor has it that they're going to do away with the 16 gigabyte, and you'll be able to get a 32 gigabyte for the same price I paid for my 16 gigabyte. But I found out that I am not a 2-device person. I am a 1-device person.
Because you went through the same thing with your Kindle Fire. You bought the Kindle Fire and you returned it.
Everybody buy these things and return them.
So I'm on November 22nd. I'm leaving the Apple Fold, and I'm getting a Samsung Galaxy Note 2, and I'm going to have the one device, 5.5 inches, not so much different from 7-inch, but I have one device. And so, brother Jeff, do you concur with my confession?
I do concur with your confession, and I understand, and you're absolved.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I feel so much better,
but
brother.
Bruce, don't you want to wait, because there's a couple of other ones in the pipeline that are coming out?
Boy, that's an epic screen cap.
There's nothing in the pipeline that's got a better processor than the new Samsung Galaxy Note, at least that I've heard anything about.
Well, I think there's a couple that have not been announced yet that are supposed to be out before the shopping season.
Frank, there's always something in the pipeline.
I like the Note 2. I'm good with the Note 2. That's the phone I like right now.
Okay, so anyway, now that we've thoroughly digressed, Android 4.1.2 rolled out, and it had one distinguishing characteristic. We could tell us.
Home screen landscape.
Tell us.
You're actually probably better to tell us, Dan, because you have it installed and you've been using it. So
yeah.
How do you like 4.1.2?
I heard there was one comment that said it's not just landscape, but basically what you can do is, sorry, I'm running two different switchers here. Before, you could run, like if you ran the YouTube app, you could switch it, and most apps you could switch it and it would go sideways. But the big distinguishing characteristic here is that now with the beautiful Nexus 7, on the home screen, it's got a side view. So all of my icons, you really can't see them well, but all the icons are facing top, but they're on the right side there, and you can go upside down or whatever you want to do.
And this is actually
this reminds me of the Apple commercial when the guy goes, "Oh, and they put the headphone jack on the bottom."
Yeah, because
it's like icons on the side.
I literally, yeah, you're right, Jeff. It is sort of absurd that I shared. We're such just ridiculous fanboys that I shared several posts. There's lots of action on the posts, +1 shares, comments, on how to force the thing to get it, a few hours before the official. And basically, the only damn thing it does is it lets you go like this. It's just absurd.
Is that it?
That's it, yeah. And there's a few. Apparently, there's some other stuff.
There are some other changes. There are some bug improvements, and this release has some changes to deal with some new hardware in the current line of Nexus 7s they're rolling off the assembly line. So
Allegedly.
Well, they basically said anybody who's producing their own version of Android, upgrade to 4.1.2. Otherwise, you're going to blow up the Nexus 7s that are coming out.
Now, the Note is not a Nexus phone, correct?
No.
So, see, the rumor that I heard is that there's going to be one or maybe even two Highline Nexus phones coming out before the holiday shopping season, which means soon.
That is the rumor.
Well, Bruce, why wouldn't you wait for one of those?
Because I want a Samsung. I think the Samsung beats the LG, beats HTC. I just like the Samsung build.
Even if it's a pure Android experience.
LG is crap when it comes to Android devices.
So
let's go to Alan.
They're
with a
picking a
comment
crap
from
manufacturer to do their flagship phone?
Well, the reason, and this is purely speculation on my part, but it's because LG is a major Android partner, and I'm sure they want to get all the major Android OEM companies to have their own Nexus. So, they're just in Nexus 9. And
so you don't think that they're capable of building a really high-line unit?
Well, again...
I think they need to prove it if they're going to.
Right, again, my opinion, but they have the capability of doing it just because Google's going to work, directly one-on-one with them, like they do with all their Nexus devices. But from past experience, no.
Now, is it just going to be them, or is somebody else coming out with a Nexus phone too?
Well, the rumor is that there's definitely going to be an LG Nexus device, but there's a rumor that multiple manufacturers are going to release at the same time the next Nexus devices.
Yeah,
that's what I'm waiting for.
We have a couple of comments. This one from Pam. My daughter just got an iPad. It just sits here untouched as we all have and use the laptops. And then from Kevin Bryan, LG wasn't chosen for Nexus because they're the best. It's just their turn.
So, what about that Pam's comment? Who's got an iPad? I know, Craig, you've got several iPads, right? So tell me.
I'm down to one. I sold the other one, and I rarely use mine. It sits on my desk. I use it as like an extra monitor, for monitoring things. I do take it out sometimes when I meet with a client, and that's the only time where I really, quote, need it, is if I'm meeting with a client and I want to show them a video or photos or whatever. And that's maybe 4 times a year. I use it for that purpose.
Well, what's the deal? Because it's the market leader in the tablet category. The Kindle Fire was the best-selling product on Amazon, and I'm sure the new ones will be as well. My mom loves her Kindle. So what is it?
I will tell you what the deal is. The deal is it's for people that don't have a decent computer on all the time like I have. I mean, if I've got a real nice computer workstation up and running, I'm going to use that if I'm here at home. And if I'm out bopping around, I'm going to use my iPhone. So I don't have a use case for it. But if somebody doesn't have a decent laptop, doesn't even have a desktop machine, a lot of people, I think, are buying these as their primary computer. And that's what they're using it for.
I think it's a tablet issue. It's not an iPad issue. It's not a, it's a tablet issue. It's not a particular type of tablet. That's you just use.
Yeah, a lot of people are buying tablets instead of a new laptop, for example. Let's say their laptop's getting long in the tooth, and they want to get something. A lot of people are just buying an iPad because it'll do all the things they need to do, or a Nexus 7, whatever. They're just checking email and Facebook.
I use it.
95% of the people out there, all they do is Facebook.
I like my tablet, but I don't use it that much. But I mean, I'm glad I have it, but I don't use it that much.
I use mine when I'm
away.
If I'm in bed, I want to read.
I always use mine.
The advantage of the tablet is its instant on ability. You turn it on, you can instantly browse, you can instantly do something. You don't have to wait for your PC to boot up.
Yeah. No, but that's what a Chromebook is for.
Yes, the Chromebook. Yeah, no, that's another device that that fits that niche. That you want to have that instant access.
Here's a question:
nobody's
these new it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Craig or Bruce or whoever, but any of you guys, the new Surface tablets from Microsoft, the higher end, the Surface Pro, that's going to have full-blown Windows, correct? That's not going to have...
No.
It's not.
That's the rumor.
Yes. The Surface
yes.
Pro has full-blown Windows.
Yes.
And every day in Engadget and tweets, I see post after post of these OEMs that are coming out with all kinds of convertibles, transportables. I mean, there's a lot of people.
Here's
that are
my
coming out
question,
with
Bruce. If the Surface, I don't know what the measurement is. It's probably similar in size to the iPad, roughly, 10.
I think it's a 10-inch. Yeah.
Okay, so it's 10-inch. If let me ask Craig. Let's say, just to put this in perspective, because you're an iOS guy, so I'll ask it in those terms. If your iPad, right? If you had an iPad-shaped device that had full-blown iOS, just like your MacBook Pro or whatever, but not the mobile version, but the full-blown version of iOS, the exact same thing as your desktop, with the Instant On and all that crap, and the ability to do up to a keyboard if you want or not, take it with you. Would that change your usage habits? Because this tells us if the Surface is going to be a success or not.
No. The reason it wouldn't is what I use my workstation for is editing videos, processing photos, and then uploading all of that stuff. And I'm super multitasking. I've got something on this monitor, something on this monitor, something on this monitor, and I'm moving things around and just as fast as I can, getting that stuff up. And there's no way I could do that on one screen. There's no way. On one little screen, even if I had a Bluetooth keyboard or something, a little tiny keyboard hooked up to it, and forget about it. I want a full-blown workstation to do that.
I see what you're going with this, and what I'll say this too. I love Android. I love my Nexus 7. If the Windows 8 Surface tablets, the full-blown one, the high-end one, if it does everything just as good as the regular desktop does, and it's affordable, I will sell my Nexus 7 because it would change my usage.
You see, and similar to Craig's point, I think the problem is that when you're using your computer, who has anything smaller than a 17-inch monitor these days? You're not going to use your tablet as your computer when it's a 10-inch device, and the smallest screen size on the absolute bottom end is 15 inches. And usually it's going to be 17 or even 21 inches as an average size. And then some people have, multiple monitors and,
and if you start hooking all of that stuff up to your iPad, to your, whatever you call this thing, to your tablet, if you start docking it and hooking all of that stuff up and everything, then, I'd rather just have a permanent setup that I just walk up to and use. I think the people that are going to buy devices like you're talking about are maybe doctors, people like that need to hold it in their hand, and there's certain software that they need to run that they can't run on a regular tablet.
I think
you're right, Craig. There's a place for There's a place for tablets and there's a place for desktop computers, and they don't mix.
Well, you're right about not just doctors, but healthcare institutions and hospitals. That Surface Pro is going to really be big because it runs Windows applications. Probably will run the client for Windows Server. Doctors are running around the hospital. They need a full-blown computer they can carry around in their hand.
It's going to kill a lot of the app developers because you're not going to need.
No. I see a lot of. When's the last time you got your car serviced? Every technician comes out with an iPad and goes through the stuff on the car.
It seems like to me
it's like you said. It's mobile computing in your hand. It's a thin client,
It seems like it would be cheaper for these organizations like hospitals and things like that to come up with an iPad app that does what they need to do, as opposed to forcing the doctor to carry around a full-blown computer.
I think that Gary makes a very good point in that the Surface would be very good for these large institutions that have heavy Windows deployments and be able to carry around the device. But I don't think that as far as I think it might be very popular for business use, but I don't think it's going to be very popular to affect the consumer at all.
Sreek's kid is awesome. Which one is that now? I can't remember the names.
There's a little one. He's not awesome. He's a brat.
Is this the one who destroyed the restaurant in Front Royal?
Exactly.
Sreek, you know, the apple never falls that far from the tree, so.
Totally agree. My dad used to say the same thing.
Alan had a comment.
Oh yeah. My machine hasn't locked up now. We have this comment from Pam. We have a Kindle Fire too. My younger daughter uses it as a giant MP3 player since she got the laptop for graduation. Before she got the laptop, she used the Kindle Fire all the time. So I think that's really it. It's, it's form factor. It's how people use it. It's what's comfortable to use long term. Tablets and phones just aren't comfortable to use if you're using it extensively. You'll make do if that's what you've got, but if you get the larger systems, you'll use the larger systems.
Okay,
yeah,
so
the problem is going to be the size and the weight of that thing. If Microsoft comes out with something that's even 25% heavier than an iPad, for example.
Let me ask Craig your opinion on this.
That's going to make a difference.
Steve Jobs is notorious for trashing a concept while he's secretly in the back room trying to perfect it, and then he comes out and says, like, oh, this is the next thing. He said that he trashed the idea of a 7-inch tablet.
Yep.
And now, allegedly, they're getting ready to release one. Do you think it was because the whole time they were masterfully knowing that that was a great thing, or do you think it's because the Kindle Fire blew up?
This is a rush job. Craig can disagree with me, but this is going to be a rush job if it does get released. It's going to be rushed, it's going to be hurried, and it's going to have serious problems.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to do it, first of all. And if they do it, my guess is their motivation is to just try to take even more oxygen out of the environment for competitors. Just closing that door. But I'm not sure they're going to do it.
Fragmentation.
And I'm not convinced that they can't put enough money into the project to do a 7-inch right. I mean, after all, it's just it's just in between the iPhone and the iPad size-wise, and it's going to have probably the same kind of components. It's just a question of if they can get the screen and get the screen right.
Fragmentation.
It should work. But
what do you think? What do you think the price point will be on it? That's the killer, right there.
I think $250, something like that.
Now, if this thing is going to be announced, Alan or any of you guys, Michael, if this thing is announced on the 23rd, which is the latest rumor, right? When would they have been at the end of the design process? In other words, would they have been able to see what Amazon came out with before they made the final decision on where to go with their 7-inch tablet? Or is this based on the information of downsizing the iPad and the Nexus 7 and the previous Kindle Fire? What do you think? I have no idea what the chain of...
I don't know. Go ahead, Michael.
I think they're just going to, they got to get in the market. They got to get that price point. It's going to be rushed. It's going to be fragmented.
If the 16.9 form factor is what they chose for the iPhone 5, if they do the same thing with this 7-inch gadget, then all they're doing basically is blowing up the size of it.
Fragmentation.
It's not that big a deal.
Fragmentation.
It's not going to be fragmented because the difference between Apple,
Christmas.
The difference between Apple and all these other manufacturers is Apple will offer one 7-inch if they offer one at all. They'll offer one. Android will offer 85. That's what you call fragmentation.
They must be scared, Alan, or the 7-inch tablet must be a bigger deal than they had initially anticipated because
it's clear
they don't
that they're
need
reacting.
to do this, right?
Yeah, no, they don't. But it's clear that they're reacting. It's clear that they're trying to, as Craig said, they're trying to suck the oxygen out of the 7-inch market.
Do you think they'll be successful?
Yeah, it's
probably.
Of course, they're going to be successful.
To some degree, I think they're going to be.
Depends on price.
The problem is folks like my mom who are into Kindle books, and frankly, none of these tablets, the iPad, none of them, if you just want to read a book, none of them compare to that Kindle experience.
No.
If that's your main purpose for this.
You're talking about the e-ink Kindles, right?
I mean, my God, it goes, what,
Yeah,
200 or 8 weeks on a charge? You kidding me?
Yeah, those things are great.
Yeah, let's blow up Bruce's here. That's.
Can we? Hey Dan, can we take a break and have Bruce play the video?
No, we've got one more story.
One more thing, and then we'll do that, and then we'll get into the controversial stuff, like we have it now. But and then so we'll do this last part of this Nexus 7 thing, and then so let me intro this for Alan here. I've been hearing about Google Wallet. I hear it's really cool. I hear I have not turned it on yet, but it's a convenience factor where you can take your device and you can wave it or whatever at the grocery store, at Walmart. And I was in, I don't know where it was. I think it was Radio Shack, and they actually had branding from Google Wallet right on their credit card swiper thing, and it said you can use Google Wallet here. So that was refreshing to see. So, and I've also heard that people freak out when they are in line and they watch you wave your phone to pay. They're like, "What the hell did you do?" So that's another reason to do it, just to freak people out. But I tried to do it on my Motorola Photon, and it said this is not compatible with your device. So then I get my Nexus 7, which is only Wi-Fi. So I'm guessing, Alan, correct me if I'm wrong, you have to have a connected to the internet device to use Google Wallet.
No.
You don't?
No, you need to have it. You might need to have it connected to the internet to set it up, but you don't need to have a network connection at the moment that you use it.
Oh, okay. So I could use my Nexus 7 because I was thinking I would have to turn my Jimmy rigged mobile Wi-Fi hotspot on my phone and stick that in my pocket.
No.
So that's powering the thing, and then I got this going. Then I wait a minute for it to turn on.
Is it using NFC?
It does use NFC. Yes, it uses NFC.
So tell us, why is this blowing up, and how will Google Wallet fare compared to the other devices that are out there? And everybody wants a piece of this because when you have a piece of this market, you get a piece of every single transaction.
That's actually a good question. But that's another question. The motivation behind this one is that INC Period Magazine, or Inc. Magazine, or whatever they call themselves these days, published a list of the top 10 must-have apps, and these were all clearly Google. This was all clearly for your Android, because they mentioned things like Google Maps on it as well. They weren't all Google products, but the number 2 in their must-have apps was Google Wallet. And last week on the show, we had a lot of people asking about Google Wallet, and I was trying to answer questions. And since then, I've been trying to get somebody from Google to come on and do a show about Google Wallet. We'll get to that in a minute. Wallet does use NFC. This is a very crucial aspect in its design. It means it doesn't need an internet connection for some of its operations. You do need to have an internet connection if you're going to be changing which card you're going to use. You do need to have an internet connection to get the map attached to your receipt. So there are some things you do need an internet connection for. But just to use it, all it needs is the NFC chip that you wave at an NFC reader. And that's going to, and that is what is at the heart of the financial transaction. As for everybody wanting a piece of it, yeah, everyone does. And we know that Apple does as well, because you can see this is where Passbook in iOS 6 is going. They essentially have the exact same objective that Google Wallet does. They're just approaching it from the other side.
But they didn't implement NFC, though.
No, they didn't yet.
Right.
I mean, is that a mistake on their part? To put
it's an omission. It's an omission on their part.
Personal opinion, I think it was a mistake on their part. But
in a year, who knows where we're going to be with NFC?
But Anthony, I mean, here's the thing. I think they're kind of clever in the way that they are doing it. They basically approached it saying, "Hey, we're just introducing this Passbook thing. You have your boarding pass there. You have these other cards in there that are scanned optically, because everyone can scan things optically these days." I imagine that the iPhone 5S is going to introduce NFC, and with it, iOS is going to support NFC, and Passbook is going to support NFC. And everybody who's gotten used to using Passbook is now suddenly going to have this feature. And Google Wallet...
It's a hardware change to their phone, right?
Right, which is which is why I'm saying the iPhone 5S is going to have it.
Okay, I thought you said 4S. I'm sorry.
No, I said 5S.
Okay.
We had this question from Steven. So you're saying that the Nexus 7 has this technology already in it? Yes, it does. The Nexus 7 is one of the 6 devices out there that has NFC built into it and can use it. We have this question from Carol. I'd love to know more about Google Wallet. Really looking forward to it. Well, you, Carol, can unfortunately keep looking forward to it because it's not available outside of the United States yet. I'm sorry. But that's okay because lots of people inside the United States would love to know more about Google Wallet, and Google isn't telling you. I had a devil of, and now this lets me get into my next rant for the evening.
But no. Merchants have to have to upgrade their POS devices to.
Yes,
actually,
they do.
I mean, it's a bigger thing than just having NFC and Google Wallet.
I mean,
well, but here's Jeff. Here's the thing. Yes, merchants do, but merchants are. There are thousands of stores that already have this technology available. This technology has been deployed at 7-Eleven for 5 years. It's been deployed at Radio Shack for years, long before Google Wallet came out.
It's a gas station.
This is not new technology.
Like a mobile gas station that has.
But it does rely on like like we said, Starbucks and
right. But
all these other
it's not
places
even
do it as well.
It's not even like Google needs to push it because MasterCard and Visa are going to push it for them.
MasterCard's been pushing it. Visa was pushing an alternate technology. I don't know if they've now gotten behind MasterCard. This was originally MasterCard's technology.
Now, do some MasterCards have NFC in them?
Yes, some MasterCards have an NFC in them.
What about security, Alan? Do I have to worry that if someone steals my Nexus 7 that they're going to be able to buy stuff?
Is that a loaded question? Because it sure sounds like a loaded question. No, you don't. One of there are 2 important features about the way Google Wallet is implemented that are reassuring on this point. The first is that you need to specifically unlock Google Wallet in order to use it. And so basically what happens is when you go up to pay, you wave this at the reader. It prompts you to enter your PIN on your phone. You enter your PIN on your phone, unlocking the wallet, and then you tap it again. The second is that if your phone is ever stolen or you lose control of it for whatever reason, you can go to Google Wallet, the Google Wallet website, and deactivate Google Wallet on the phone. And what that does is it will immediately deactivate all your cards, making them impossible to use even if you have the PIN. And if it ever gets back hold of your phone, if your phone ever checks in on the internet, the first thing it will do is disable the NFC chip completely.
Okay, so are there protections in place like standard credit cards? For example,
Yes.
if they steal your phone and you don't realize it for 6 hours and they buy a lawnmower with your phone or your tablet, can you have that Are there protections for you?
It is just like a credit card in that fact. In fact, it is a credit card.
Yeah, but can you also put limitations on how much per transaction you can spend?
That I don't know off the top of my head. That's a good question.
Well, this is interesting, and I'm going to activate it because I wasn't aware, Alan, that you could use it on a non 3G or 4G tablet or device.
Yep.
So I'll try it, and we'll update this next week.
Well, let us know how it works. Go to 7-Eleven.
Try it out. What I'm still trying to do is get somebody from Google who can answer these questions and show people how it's used. But since Google has been staunchly refusing to let anybody talk to me about this, I'm probably just going to go film myself using these things and create my own tutorial because Google's marketing department is utterly incompetent when it comes to handling regular consumer questions.
Alan, were you in the Hangout the other day where we were talking about some of these things?
Was I in the Hangout with Dory where she said that she needed to talk to her marketing department?
Yeah,
and I said Google has a marketing department?
Yeah, I wasn't going to say her name, but anyway.
That Hangout? Yes, I was.
Basically, the gist I got out of that whole meeting was that if any of the things that we wanted done are going to happen, that pretty much we have to do them ourselves. Right?
But
Isn't that right?
Which is true. The problem with that is it's that Google is then not going to care about what we do.
But Craig, why should they go to the trouble of explaining how to use a nationally marketed transaction app?
Right. I mean, here's the thing. If Google wants people to use this, they need to actually make it useful and easy and well understood, and they've done an utterly horrible job at doing so.
Which is surprising because next to search, that's their specialty. Explaining intricate engineering things
yes.
and great UIs. All right, we love Google, but we say with affection that.
But I do have to add that my takeaway from that meeting was that they are going to somewhat support the things that we're doing, but that most of the heavy lifting and work has to be done by us, but that they will work with us and support it. So that's better than nothing.
In other words, they appreciate what we're doing.
Yes.
But we're going to have to keep doing it.
That's right.
Okay.
For nothing.
All right. What does this mean, Alan? I saw this and I haven't looked at it. This was a last-minute ad. You were busy today. You were crazy. Oh, dear.
He's had 28 monster drinks.
Web rivals want what Google got.
What Google got. This actually refers specifically to the Kansas City Fiber Project. The other internet providers in Kansas City are whining and saying that Google got preferential treatment, so they want the same preferential treatment now.
That's a fair argument to make, though.
It is a fair argument, and if they were actually going to be delivering a fraction of what Google is delivering, then it might be a legitimate thing to give them. But basically, they're saying they want reduced rates on access to the telephone poles. They want space in Kansas City public buildings that Kansas City is going to pay the power for. They want all of these things. And Kansas City has said, sure, we'll talk these over with you. We'll negotiate. We'll discuss. And I hope what Kansas City is saying at the same time is, but you're only going to get those rates if you're going to give us
a gigabyte,
high-speed internet, and the high-speed access. If you're going to give us something equivalent, because otherwise, why do we care?
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
And they probably will, right? So.
I don't know if the incumbents are going to agree to do that, and I hope that they fight tooth and nail as they sink into the tar pits.
I love your
can't happen
analogies.
To a better bunch of people, Comcast and Verizon and all of them.
Okay, I just wanted to explain something. I have an important breaking news update from my
Nexus 7?
Yeah. No, the Nexus Q. The Nexus from Star Trek Generations was created by Q accidentally while playing with plasma in the core of a star. So I think that may have been the genesis of the name. I think I may have
perhaps, but it's
spontaneously combusted.
Q is from the continuum, though.
Correct, but he created the Nexus. I don't know. I think there's some sort of correlation there. Okay, so now that we've lost half our viewers, Facebook. If your funny cat pictures are not enough to get folks to befriend you on Facebook, and I really should start here with Craig Shipp, because he is looking so snazzy, and I want to put him on screen. But what do you think about this whole pay to promote your post thing?
Oh, I think it's a great deal. I had a guy on the show earlier today, the Frederick Weeks show, that has a mansion here that does a haunted Halloween thing for the next several weekends. Charges for tickets to go through his haunted mansion. And I said, if I were him, I'd definitely use it to promote. I think that people that get in early and use that to promote like an event like he's having, for example, are going to get a great deal because they're trying to get this thing going and get it out there. They'll probably, I haven't looked into how many impressions he gets and all of that, for $7 or whatever he gets, but I'm sure he's going to get a lot of bang for the buck.
Craig, do you actually know what this is? This isn't about impressions. This isn't advertising. This is basically making sure that your post shows up above all of your friends' posts.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So if he posts something about the Haunted Mansion and talks about it with a link to his website, then that'll get promoted so that people have to see it, right?
You know what that is?
But it's only the people who are already following him that'll see it.
Well, I mean, what's wrong with that?
You know what that is? That's a simple, key element of desperation on Facebook. Because they need a way to make money. You know?
But I mean,
but is that accurate? That's an important thing there, Craig. Is it true that it'll only apply to your friends? It's not like a promoted post on Twitter, which would appear to however many people you buy. This only affects. So if you have 7 friends on Facebook, what would be the point? That doesn't make sense. Are you sure about that?
That's my understanding. Is that this is not this isn't a sponsored post. This isn't an advertisement. This is just basically a way to buy your way higher in the page rank algorithm, in the friend rank in their ranking algorithm.
Yeah, but what if you
so
post
it's truly spamming
public?
your friends?
What if you post something public?
Then if people are actually following you, then yeah, they will see it as opposed to only maybe seeing it.
Has anyone ever seen one of these in the wild? I mean, have you ever?
Yes, I've had at least 2 people who usually join this panel have seen it in the wild.
And what kind of posts were they? Do we know?
Oh, you mean seen well, that's the thing. As far as I know, it doesn't actually, does it identify whether this has been a paid post or not? I don't think so.
So not only are they are they making money from your friends spamming you, but they're doing it in a non-transparent way?
No, here you go. I just looked it up. Here's the wording.
We just got this from RJ. It will only apply to your friends, but if the privacy setting is set to public, people will see it in the ticker if their friends comment or like the post. So it's
that is wrong.
How they're okay.
Okay, go ahead, Michael.
Now this is on Facebook's promoted post page. So these are their words, and I quote: "Your promoted post can be seen by anyone in the post audience." So if you set up a post for like teens in this area, blah blah blah, promoting a post does not affect who can see it. Instead, it bumps the post higher in the news feed, so more of the people you shared it with are likely to notice it. People in your audience who've hidden,
which is what we just said,
page will not see your promoted post instead of their news feed.
How much do they charge? Is it based on how many friends you have?
No, I don't know. Everyone's been saying that it's $7 though.
Yeah, I heard $7.
My guess is you get a lot of bang for the buck because they're just starting the thing. They're probably going to give you a lot of visibility for the $7. It's probably a steal.
So
for people that have something to promote.
Does anyone know how long it stays promoted?
Here's what Carol says, by the way. On Facebook, it will show as a sponsored post in light gray at the top, but not as a paid-for post. So I don't know what the difference is between sponsored and paid for, but
that makes it look like you've got juice, and Facebook has decided to make it important, and half the people aren't going to know that you paid for it.
No, I think it would make me
it's a bargain.
Bargain.
You were.
I think promote Google Plus Week.
I think your friends will start laughing at you if they see too many.
Yeah,
of these
I think this is another scumbag move by that bastard Zuckerberg.
If we do it to promote Google Plus Week, they'll probably shut down all our accounts.
Not that you'd know. How many have you had shut down?
I still have one left.
Oh my God. All right. How did Anthony end up? Did Alan leave? Oh, he left.
Alan just left.
All right.
Since we have a light moment here, can we play the video now?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's.
You have it ready, Bruce?
First of all, while Bruce gets it ready, Craig, why don't you intro this and explain? This is sort of. We've all seen those speed painters, who have done many of us in here, and they're fantastic. There's a few of them on here, but tell us about this. And this is like a music version of that, right? Tell us what the deal is.
We did this, I think it was actually a week ago in Frederick Week. We did the one for Michael Banks. Hannah Silver, very talented musician from Australia who's been playing the piano and keyboards since she was 3 years old or something. We were in the Hangout with her, and she was unboxing this new keyboard that she got. She's sitting on the floor playing with this thing. She's all excited that she got this keyboard. And this was a week ago today. And I said, well, we'll give you 3 minutes. Can you compose a song for Michael Banks? And so she went ahead and did that. And I think we played it in last week's show. And so she, literally in 3 minutes' time, she composed the lyrics and the soundtrack, everything, and then performed it live in the Hangout. And so she came in the show today, and I said, I want one for the Hangout 10 show. Hangout 10, website, which is a website that promotes shows like this, any kind of shows that are produced in Google Hangouts. And so same thing. We gave her a couple of minutes to compose it. Gave her a few ideas on some lyrics, but she basically did it herself. And she performed it live in the show, and it's done. And I thought it came out pretty decent.
All right. Well, you've got the video, right, Bruce?
Here we go.
All right. Here we go.
Hangout 10, we're coming to you live. Hangout 10, it's all direct to you. There's creatives coming to you live, and there's news from all over too. We've got hobbies like woodworking and knitting, and beauty and style. Hangout 10, we're coming to you live. So forget TV, 'cause we've got it all here coming direct to you. There's Daria Mask who sings, and Sarah Hill and Dan McDermott. Hangout 10, we're coming to you live. Hangout 10.
Bingo, bango.
Bango.
She's very talented.
That's kind of cute.
Yeah, you have to watch the original because obviously the audio wasn't coming through real good there. But I think it's pretty amazing that she can do those on the fly.
Now, you've got 13 URLs on your screen there, Craig. Could you direct us to the... Which is the right... Where is that if they want to find that? Because remember, some people will watch this months later, so where do they find it?
Yeah, if they go to hangout10.com, I've got it right on the homepage there, so they can watch the video. It'll be there for quite a while.
Cool.
It might move down the page some as time goes by, but it's there right now, right at the top.
And by the way, a private memo to Craig on the thing we're trying to get done. I wrote on the guy's paycheck, make this happen, please, please, please. Thanks. Today. So hopefully tomorrow. I said, let's do it tomorrow. So that's, I found,
Yeah, private memo back. We're looking at 2 weeks for the redesign, hopefully to be in place.
Awesome.
These are great private memos that we're having in a Hangout on air that's being recorded and transmitted around the world.
A ratings bonanza as well.
Speaking of last week's show, I'm going to have to cut out a little bit. I just want to give you guys an update on SFO Noise because we were kind of promoting it a little bit on the show, right? And
explain what that is briefly, and then give us the update for folks who didn't watch last week.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, it is Brisbane, California. We have this little fight with the San Francisco airport about flying over our city, and the FAA has gotten involved, and it's really hard to make change. And we started to create videos on YouTube to actuate some change and get hopefully our representatives involved, mainly Senator Boxer. And regrettably, we only got about 220 views on the video. So I would hope that anyone who's listening to this or sees this show goes to sfonoise.com. Okay, I'm going to put it up here one more time and move it up here. Or if anyone on the panel, or if anyone on the panel wants to share the video, that would be excellent because we're trying to get Senator Barbara Boxer involved in doing this, getting involved in our situation here. So hoping on Googlers to do something about it.
Why don't you advertise it, Jeff?
This is my advertisement.
No, but I mean, why don't you buy some ads? Because you know, if you get regular AdWords, don't buy the promoted videos.
You can promote it on Facebook.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
right up there. Right?
Yeah, for $7.
$7, baby.
But no, seriously,
$7,
get some AdWords. Ronnie Bincer's the guy you want to talk to about this. Ronnie Bincer, B-I-N-C-E-R. But he's the expert on this, and I need to ask him for some advice. But
I would like to challenge everyone in my voice to share the video.
I was going to invite him, and I forgot. I'm going to invite him right now. Let me invite Ronnie
and people need to go and watch that thing on YouTube and thumbs up it on YouTube and so on, because I'm convinced that sometimes
Dan, check the broadcast stream.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Dan, check the broadcast stream.
Done. Oops.
There you go.
How do I get out of this? Oh, my God.
Just
escape?
focus on a person.
Okay.
Focus on your... Yeah.
Anyway, I'm convinced that sometimes when people watch an embedded video, it doesn't increase your counter. Sometimes. I don't know.
No, what you can do, the way to do this, Craig and Jeff, what I would do, you can buy views. The way to do it, the cheapest way, is get AdWords for what this is, direct them to the specific video. Don't buy the promoted videos, but actually direct them to the page that the video's on, and just bid like 1 penny or 2 cents. So you'll get 50 for $1 or 100 for $1, and just put 1 billion keywords up there. And then once you get the count up, so like for $100 you could get what, 10,000 views. And then once you get 10,000 views, you go to the local media and say, hey, this video is really taking off. They don't know that somebody in Islamabad who doesn't care, accidentally clicked on it.
Right.
But again, for PR purposes.
I am still going off this challenge that I'm challenging Googlers.
Indeed.
To step up, share the video. I'm not trying to make any money off this. I'm trying to get Senator Boxer involved in our situation. So again, as I say one last time, let's go to sflnoise.com or go to YouTube. I'll put the link at the end of the show when Dan posts it, and you can just watch the video there. But I really appreciate all the help. As we plead, please.
We all share your pain.
That's it. That's what I got. Now I have to eat dinner.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And
and
how can we never hear airplane? If it's so bad, how can we never hear airlines?
Because look at, I got this. I'm in double pane windows. I got my little green screen over there, so I don't hear any noise coming in from the other side. So I'm getting it all down.
Can you see if Margie's ready to come in now?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, guys.
We're gonna have
all right, buddy. Thank you, Jeff, and good luck with the jet
hey,
engines.
Dan, I got to show you this one effect here. Ready?
Okay.
Ready? You go like this. You move forward, and you move back. It's a Spike Lee movie. No,
I don't understand what you're doing.
Well, the background is moving, but I am not.
Oh, is it 2 shots of Wirecast, or what is it?
Yeah, this is Wirecast, right?
You just went 1 shot, zoomed in, 1 not?
Yeah, but then when I zoom in, I lean in, and it looks like I'm not moving. The background is moving. It's nice.
And as long as you're...
you know what you could do is, get a green screen and take a photograph of the background.
But that's neat. So he's got that. Like when you go, like if you're watching one of the any news show, when they first start the shot, they'll go in at the very beginning of the shot. They slowly pan in like that, and so that's what he's doing. And as long as your intake and your canvas size is a greater resolution than 360p, which is what Hangouts are, there's no pixelation. So it's kind of a neat,
if it's a
albeit obscure feature.
No, yeah, but if it's HD camera, there's no loss anyways when you focus in. So, anyways, you guys have a wonderful show.
Jeff, the effect you're doing, I believe, is called a dolly zoom.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a pretty old technique.
Yes, but it's new to Hangouts.
Indeed. All right. Thank you, Jeff, and good luck with your
noise.
Your upcoming air show. Okay, so
good luck.
All right, let's see here.
Before we move on,
yes, sir.
We have a new viewer, and we know they're a new viewer because Carol just asked this comment. How long does this show go on for, guys?
We're still on last week's show. We haven't even started this week's show. It goes on a long time. Ridiculous. We're at 90 minutes now, 89 minutes.
So normally, Carol, here's the way it goes. And first of all, Carol, welcome. We understand you're from England. Welcome to the show. The show typically is broken up into 3 parts. There is the part where Dan is panicking and trying to get things working before we start the official version.
45 minutes.
And that usually takes about 45 minutes. Half an hour on a good night. There is the show itself, and you're probably watching it now from YouTube, so you're seeing Dan in a green screen.
In a 2 hour.
And he creates a produced version, which has a nice blue background and picture-in-picture and some other stuff, and this is what he posts on YouTube later. That usually runs about 2 hours. And then we fill out the rest of the time until Google cuts us off with the after show. And the after show is where we invite people who don't normally show up on the panel to come in and chat just randomly. So usually it runs about 4 hours total.
But not
on a good night.
But not more than 4 hours, unless we restart. Question, Alan. The 4 hours, does that kick in when you start the Hangout or when you start the broadcast?
Answer, Dan. I really don't know. I believe it is when you start the broadcast, because the point is you can't record a more than 4 hour video using this system.
Yeah, I think it's a broadcast.
I may be the only person who's ever.
And by the way, 2 hours is the edit cutoff.
Yes.
If it's longer than 2 hours, you can't edit it.
Okay. So I'm screwed.
Yeah, but you don't care. You edit it locally anyway.
Correct. Okay, so next up, I think we're getting into the meat now.
This is the meat?
Google is accused of spying on Gmail users. In a nutshell, is it Vancouver? Somewhere in Canada. They're basically accused of some guys are suing them because they're saying Google scrapes your email with a computer, not a person. Nope. Google's saying no people can see this, but it's standard in every single email application that they scan for viruses and phishing and spam, and they'll categorize it like that. That's a feature. But their argument is if they are not a Gmail user and they are emailing you and you have your Gmail account, then they have not, because they don't use Google products or they don't use Gmail specifically, they have not agreed to the terms of service for Gmail. Interesting, this might be related to why they went to one single TOS, but that's a whole different thing. I don't want to get that into the weeds. But so if you're just, say, a Yahoo Mail user and you're emailing Alan Furstenberg in New York at gmail.com, they're reading your email, filtering it for spam and that sort of thing, and you've not agreed to the terms of service. So is this legitimate or is this nonsense, Alan?
Well, calling it nonsense would be giving it way too much credit.
Well, those are only the two choices. I'm just kidding.
Such a binary world.
Yeah, I read this thing in detail.
They have an interesting argument by saying, they never agreed to the terms of service. Therefore, Google has no right to do anything with their email except deliver it. And quite frankly, that's bogus, because the way email has always worked is it's an agreement between all of the various systems running email. And one of those agreements is that your email is subject to certain kinds of inspection. And conventionally these days, we assume that one of those things that it's being checked for is, as you pointed out, it's being scanned for viruses. One could easily spin this to say Google themselves are not examining the email for them. They're examining the email on behalf of the person who's receiving the email as part of the person receiving the email's client. So Google is not doing this. It is the person and their client that's doing, and their reader that's doing this. This is a totally bogus argument. I don't really want to give it too much more credit than this. That's just how bogus it is. I think we've given it way too much credit, as a matter of fact. Go ahead, Anthony.
Like, to change technologies a little bit, and whatever. If I go and mail a letter to someone and they receive the letter and they decide to go post it, up in a public place, like, I don't have any recourse because I gave it to that person.
Well, but here's an interesting thing, actually. You might actually have some recourse because the letter is copyrighted by you. So they could be violating your copyright. I don't think you would have a very strong case, mind you, but
a little case.
But you'd have a little case.
Did Bruce drop out?
Yeah, Bruce just dropped out for some reason.
Okay, because Margie said she didn't want to come in, so he was dropping out for her to come in, but oh well. I asked her in chat if she wanted to come in.
Okay, so we agree that Google is not secretly reading all of your emails, and this is what's that phrase? Going after deep pockets, hoping for a settlement. Just rampant speculation. I want to get sued. Okay, next up, Robert Bork, who political wonks from the 80s will remember was a federal judge who was nominated for the Supreme Court. It was a very controversial nomination. He was characterized as an extreme conservative, and his nomination was defeated. He went on to become sort of an expert, wrote a book on antitrust, and he and I'll read here from CNET. The fiery former federal judge, whose U.S. Supreme Court nomination battle galvanized a generation of conservative activists, spent the late 1990s arguing that Microsoft should be carved up into multiple pieces because of antitrust violations. Bork, an antitrust scholar and author of a landmark book on the topic, is now saying that Google is no Microsoft. In a new analysis released at an event in Washington, D.C., Bork offers a point-by-point refutation of claims that Google has violated the law or acted in an anti-competitive fashion. Rather, Bork says it's a case of competitors' sour grapes. Now, this gets to the organization of Microsoft and Kayak and other pathetic, whining, sniveling, rodent competitors who are
like
upset because Walmart doesn't put their products on the eye-level shelf. Oh, excuse me. I mean, they're upset that they don't appear in Google's properties or whatever. I don't even want. I mean, I guess. Anyway, I think it's interesting that this guy, who, that Robert Bork of all people, who was a federal judge, Supreme Court nominee in the late
actually, what it says, Dan, is that people who know and understand what a monopoly really is know that Google is not acting like a monopoly.
And really, it's interesting, especially with his experience with Microsoft, where at one time they were the king of the hill, clearly.
Right.
And now they have been not dethroned, but they have been, knocked off balance.
So they've been dethroned. They've definitely been. They're pretty much irrelevant.
Oh, right.
Well, Google has this model
Come
where
on.
they actually.
Wait a minute. What do you mean they're Microsoft's irrelevant?
Microsoft is a has-been. Come on, going forward.
I wish I was on a has-been, and 80% of or more of the computers in the world had my software on it.
Xbox.
And will next year, and will the year after that, and Xbox. They're not irrelevant. They're just not what they were.
Give them 5 years. They're in the tar pits. They're in there with CBS, NBC, and ABC all kicking together.
You and the kooks and spoonbenders believe that.
Anyway,
I just wanted
to.
I just thought that was really interesting. That Robert Bork, blast from the past, right?
Well, the other important thing to get about this article is the point that the Federal Trade Commission is beginning to wrap up its investigation of Google and its monopolistic practices, and it isn't in the article that you posted from CNET, but I believe there are other stories out that it's saying that FTC is saying it is almost certain that Google is acting like a monopoly, which, critics of Google are saying, see, we told you so all the time, and critics of, and supporters of Google are saying that the FTC is, acting like a tool of Apple, Microsoft, and Oracle. So, take this whatever. One interesting comment that I did see from somebody today, and I apologize, I missed who it was. They said, okay, if Google is a monopoly, what's the remedy? How are you going to prevent Google from acting less monopolistic?
But they're not a monopoly. How can you be a voluntary monopoly? In other words, there's Bing, there's
right, and that's it. I mean, what are you going to tell Google? What are you going to tell Google to do? Make worse search results? You can't do that.
Wait. people were voluntarily buying Windows back when they had a monopoly, so you can't say that.
Oh, that's more difficult to say, Craig. That's a lot more difficult to say.
There's a difference, Craig. There's a difference between Microsoft saying to HP or Gateway 2000 back then that you, in order to get the OEM rate for your computer, for all the computers you manufacture, right? In order to buy the cheaper version of Windows to put on your PCs, you have to pay for every single computer that you make. So if you wanted to put OS2,
buying those computers,
but listen, Craig, if you wanted to use OS2 or some other operating system, then you were still paying for Windows on that machine, plus you were paying for OS2 on that machine. So there was a legitimate, I mean, Bill Gates, despite his current, he's a hero of philanthropy, God bless him, but back in the day, he was a ruthless competitor, and there's nothing wrong with that. You and I are both ruthless competitors.
But people were voluntarily buying those products still. It wasn't Standard Oil.
No, but to go to...
where they control everything, and you have no choice at all.
Yeah, but
it's different.
Craig,
it's
they
different.
were telling the computer manufacturers you either buy from us or, we don't sell from you and you go out of business because you need a Microsoft One. They were telling
Abuse would be to say you have to, it's all or nothing. If you're the leading thing, you know what I mean? If you're the lead, the equivalent of that, Alan, and correct me if I'm wrong, would be for Google to tell a company that you had to make us by default the search engine on all of your computers, or we're going to make you incompatible with none of our services will work on your computers. I mean, it's that kind of
it's that
mafia
kind of thing,
type
yes.
thing.
It's using their dominant market position to effect specific changes from others that are advantageous to only them.
The basic difference is people choose to use Google voluntarily. Nobody forces you to.
Well, and there's another huge difference, and that is that there's something called Facebook. And people spend a lot more hours on Facebook, most people, average people, than they do on Google. And so there's no way you could make any argument at all that Google has a monopoly. When the eyeballs, it's a question of where the eyeballs are.
Well, but you can say that Google has a dominant, a vastly superior position when it comes to search.
Well, it depends on what you're searching, not if you're searching Facebook.
Okay, I guess I see what you're saying, but I think
I'll put it this way.
Craig, here's the thing. I think we're in agreement. Before we get too far into the weeds, I think we are both in agreement that Google is not...
I don't think it's the weeds, because it's a question of you're on the computer, right? And let's say I spend 6 hours a day on the computer. And let's say 5 of those are on Facebook. And 1 of them are on the internet at large. And I'm doing some searches and whatever.
Craig, I get what you're saying. The problem is, well, it's 2 things. One, the problem is that the opponents to Google are arguing from 2 years ago. So they're saying that the thing that everyone does on the internet is search. And as you pointed out, the thing that everyone does on the internet isn't just search anymore. They're doing a lot of other social things.
And sometimes they search there.
Right. And
they search on Twitter, they search on Facebook. So that's cutting up the market even more. And I would argue that if Google doesn't get their act together with Google Plus and with social, that they could become irrelevant too in time. So they're far from a monopoly. In fact, I think they're threatened. Now, I'm hoping they're going to win, but I still see it as a battle between Facebook and Google. That's the battle I see.
I think that's even underplaying the complexity of it, to be honest. Facebook is a very, very niche market, and as we're seeing, I think Facebook, even though they're the dominant player in their field, and they are the dominant player in their field, they've got serious problems in their own market.
Did you just say Facebook is a niche market?
The majority of the people's time right now on the computer. You don't think Facebook's getting the majority?
I think I think it's a lot less than people think. I think social, in terms of I think social as social is dropping pretty precipitously. as people realize that it's not what it
I hope
is.
you're right, but most of the people I see here, locals here, they spend, when they're on the computer, unless they're on at work, doing work on a computer, I'm not counting that, I'm counting social time, away from work, I'll put it that way. They're on Facebook. And
I think
that is it. They're not anywhere else for the most part.
But I think the question is then, what are they doing on Facebook? What does that mean? And
They're
I think
posting a photo and they're commenting on somebody else's. They're liking somebody else's photo. I mean, I see them. I can tell because I can see how they react to stuff and how they share stuff, and I can tell they're active on the platform literally for hours.
And I think that number has been dropping very rapidly.
I hope you're right.
Okay, so we all agree Facebook sucks, and you should stop using
Stay to Google Plus. Next.
All right.
This
second link here is the same thing, correct?
What was that?
The second, there were two.
The Canada.
Yes, I don't know. I didn't put these on. This is all your section now.
I'm not really sure whether Craig was arguing whether Google is a monopoly or not.
Google.
Oh, they're not a monopoly. I say they're threatened. They're far from a monopoly. A monopoly is somebody who's dominating the market and really has no competition.
Craig, I think it really depends on what you define the market as. And I think what Google's competitors as part of the FTC suit are saying is that in a very, very narrow thing called internet search, Google is a monopoly. And I think there might be some validity to that.
The best analogy, Alan.
But let me finish, Dan, please. But then they're going on and saying that Google uses that to try to dominate everything else, and I think they're so far off base there that it's not funny.
The difference,
absolutely.
The best comparison is to think of Google, which is not a monopoly, but it is a dominant leader in search, but it is fledgling in other areas. It is to look at it like Walmart or Costco. Walmart is a dominant retailer, as is Costco, but nobody is forced to go to those stores. There are other alternatives, but they just aren't as cheap and as good quality or whatever you want to call it. So for Kayak to be upset is like if Craig comes up with his personal spaghetti sauce and he has them brand it and bottle it and label it, and then Walmart chooses not to feature it in their store or chooses not to feature it, it's Walmart's damn store. They can do whatever they want. They can choose what products will move.
But the question, but here's the thing, Dan. In a dominant position, do you really? No, never mind. I won't get into it. I'm not in the mood to debate monopolies tonight.
Final thoughts, Craig, and then we'll move.
Well, I just think that people are far from just using Google products. I look at a monopoly as they're just using those products and they're not using anything else. And maybe at one point in time, Microsoft had a monopoly where they were just using the Microsoft operating system. They were just using Microsoft Word and so on and so forth. And there were very few other choices. And so you could argue that maybe they did have a monopoly. But even if they did, Google is far from that position. They're being threatened on all angles. Yahoo is now going to try to rejuvenate their email and get that going again. And there's nothing to say that they won't. There's nothing to say that they won't come on and give Gmail a run for its money. Google is being attacked from all sides. Apple is going to attack them. Facebook is already, in my opinion, big time attacking them.
It's just sleazy, and it's like the worst possible ad you've ever seen from a political campaign, Craig. This Fair Search org, I can't believe.
Well, no, hang
Microsoft,
on.
It's sleazy and it's
except for the fact
dishonest.
That they have. Well, no, but yes, it's largely dishonest, but they have some legitimate points that they have made. They have talked about, for example, how Google has gone to some of the various company ranking sites, none of which, I think they went to Yelp, for example. They scraped Yelp's results and posted them without linking to Yelp. And there's evidence that they've done so. And if Google has done that, then yes, Google acted improperly in that case.
Just
That's
like in the FTC
that's
judgment.
just improper.
I mean, you criticized them harshly on the right after the FTC judgment, when they got fined for, you know. So everyone misbehaves, and whether
well, I've criticized them for that, but I don't think they actually did wrong in that case.
Someone did. Someone was pretty harsh with him. I thought it was on the show. I thought it was you, but
it was on the show. No, I was pointing out that what Google did there was exactly what Apple told them to do, and they got fined.
Okay, I recall now. I stand corrected. Yeah, I think Google will stumble on occasion. People will make mistakes in Google. I don't think that Larry or Sergey or Vic or Chi are going to deliberately try to break the law. You know what I mean? So, but that doesn't mean that a big corporation, which is by definition big, isn't going to have an element make a mistake once in a while.
Big corporation by definition big. That's a great tautology there, Dan.
Thank you. But anyway, I just the best counter to all these crazy lawsuits is the fact that they are seeing a rising competitor in Bing. I mean, it's not there yet. It's no Google. In the same way that Google Plus is no Facebook. But Bing is putting pressure on Google. If they come up with an innovative idea, then it makes Google stop and look at it and think about it, and it's putting pressure in the same way that Google Plus, which does not obviously have the same engagement that Facebook does, Google Plus is putting a lot of pressure on Facebook, and we have seen Facebook adopt a number of features. I want to highlight this from George,
and then we'll move. What about Google search on a Windows machine to find a Facebook user? So where's the monopoly? The monopoly is the fact that in using Google search, Google now has the opportunity to say something like, "Oh, hey, I see you're using a nice insecure Windows machine. Why don't you use a nice secure Chrome box instead?" And we see that this person that you have is also on Google Plus. Why don't you try Google Plus instead? That's where the market domination and trying to use that domination in one field to influence other fields comes in.
Which is ridiculous. If you can't advertise inside your own business, where can you advertise?
I think the problem isn't so much, again, it isn't so much advertising, it's using that dominant position unfairly to squash your competitor. So, for example, if instead of saying, "Here is your Facebook friend," saying, "Oh, hey, I found that person on Google Plus," and not giving that Facebook link.
Which I don't think Google's ever done.
Right? I don't think Google's ever done that either, and I don't think they would. And if they did, that I think is inappropriate.
Let me ask Craig.
Well, and if they did, that's going to open the door for the competitors who are going to deliver real search results to start taking market share away from them. So Google would ultimately end up shooting themselves in the foot because they would no longer be the best search engine.
Unless, of course, Google used that position to wipe out competitors that may be up and coming.
Craig, what's the point in developing a dominant company if you can't use that dominance to quash your competitors?
Well, no, Dan, it's not using your dominance to quash your competitors. It's using your dominance to crush your competitors in a field that you're up and coming in.
No, I can. I'll tell you the way I would answer that question.
Craig, then Sreek, then we got to move. Go ahead.
Yeah, then we'll move.
The way I would answer that question is just like we do here in Frederick. I mean, we're the dominant portal. We have fixed prices that we charge any business that wants to list their business on that site. We don't jack them up for certain people and lower them for other people. We have no plans of raising the prices unreasonably just because we basically are the dominant portal. In other words,
that's a lie.
We're trying to be fair about it. And we're almost treating it like a utility.
But Craig, if I went to you and I said, I want to start a web portal in Frederick, Maryland, and I want to advertise big banners on your site, and you decided, gee, that's a direct competitor, I don't want to let you advertise, or I'm not going to choose to interview you, or you know what I mean? Well, what's wrong with that? I don't understand. What's wrong with that?
We don't have a lot of banner ad space available, but yes,
you know what I'm saying.
I would sell them the banner ad.
But if you chose not to because they were a direct threat, let's say here's an example that would make you freak out. Let's say Gannett called you and said, we want to buy some prominent advertising on your site to promote a new web portal to a business directory listing in Frederick, Maryland, you would freak out. Gannett, right?
No, I'd take their money. Absolutely.
But if you but wouldn't you have the choice? Wouldn't you in America be able? Shouldn't you be able to choose which way to go on that?
Sure.
Or should you?
Sure.
Should they be able to sue you if they chose not to do it?
I could turn away the advertising, but I'm just saying that's not what I would do. But because see, I don't feel threatened by anybody because they don't have the URL frederick.com. I mean, no matter what they do, they're pissing up a rope.
And your model, which is epic. Okay, Sreek, final thoughts on this.
Well, I don't think that Google is a monopoly. I also think that is the I don't know, FTC, I don't know what it's called. Are they looking at how Google can use Search Plus Your World to actually promote other Google products in terms of, you're actually searching and you see links from Google Plus, etc. So isn't that a kind of a promotion of your own stuff?
What's wrong with that?
I'm not saying it's wrong.
Why shouldn't Walmart be able to sell great value brand products?
Right, but if you're the #1 search engine in the world, in terms of
voluntarily, because people choose because you're better and others have tried and failed.
That is a different issue. That's a different issue. If you are already, right, and then if you're going to use that, then it gives an unfair advantage to Google as opposed to being able to show content from anywhere else.
There's nothing wrong with an unfair advantage as long as it's voluntary. It's not like every gas station.
I've gone through extensive, in my industry which I work, there is extensive education on how you deal with anti-competitive theories. So there is no real black and white definition, but it's the way one looks at it. I know, I mean, you and I can understand that, okay, there's nothing wrong with that. You have a dominant product, you use that. But whether the only thing that the Trade Commission or whoever is going to look at is that disadvantages to the customer, the person on the street who is using it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that is one of the biggest factors they look at.
It's got nothing to do with Google or Microsoft or anybody. The only thing they look at what is good for the economy, what is good for competition. That's why it's called anti-competitive. That's it. I rest my case.
By the way, Sreek, are you using the mic built into your headset?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I would say that they don't always look out for the consumer, Sreek, because with Microsoft, they might say that, but with Microsoft, one of the big issues was that there was a big deal about Netscape.
Oh yeah,
which was commercial,
bundled together, right?
Netscape they charged. Netscape was something you bought, and then Microsoft wanted to include a free Internet Explorer.
So basically, what's happening there is.
Am I correct in that, Alan?
Yes. Originally, Netscape was a commercial product only.
And that was so you had the web browser was something you paid for, and then Microsoft wanted to enter that market and give away a web browser that was fairly comparable, but they were including it with Windows, and so the government said, "Oh, you can't do that because you're unfairly competing with this." Go ahead, Alan.
It's more complicated than that. Microsoft then wanted to use that browser to introduce new technology that they weren't going to be letting other people use. So their browser would be basically Microsoft was using their dominant position.
Is that something that's true, or is that something that was alleged?
I want to add.
I'm asking.
More than that, the Internet Explorer was so embedded in the Windows OS that if you removed it, your internet connectivity was gone.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a different issue. But to say that they're looking out for the interests of the consumer, frankly, in retrospect, right, with the benefit of 15 years hindsight, or how many years it was, we were better off when web browsers went free. The consumer.
Well, but Dan, it's more complicated than that because web browsers were free. Netscape was the one who was trying to change the model to make it a commercial product.
But they could only charge if it was a good product, right?
Well, they compared to what was out at the time, it was a good product.
Didn't they invent it? I thought they invented the browser.
It's more complicated than that. Netscape. We can go into this another time.
Well,
okay.
It's not straightforward.
It's not very black and white. That's what I'm saying. And don't get me wrong, Dan. I don't think Google is doing anything wrong. But at the end of the day, it is what commissions like this take a look at and say what is good for the market. That's what it comes down to. Simple.
Okay. So we all agree that this, Google, we like Google most of the time.
Oh, just want to add, and what Alan said is very valid. There's no way you can ask Google to actually make the search worse. So I don't know how they're going to handle it. It's a very unique situation where a software as a service becomes dominant, and then there's no way they can ask that. The only way, in the case of Microsoft, they all thought about splitting the company into two.
Into three, actually.
Three, yeah, okay, yeah. So,
All right, let's try to bust through.
Let's try to bust through these because once again we're running late.
Yeah, as depressing as it is when people have to leave, it makes the conversations hopefully go quicker because there's fewer people who can weigh in. All right, this crazy guy, who wants to jump from a perfectly good balloon basket from space and break the sound barrier wearing only a spacesuit. I'm picturing eBay auctions for pieces of him if he succeeds. Am I crazy or what? Alan, what do you think?
You've got a funny definition of succeeds there.
I think it's like he's delayed his suicide attempt several times.
We say spacesuit. This is a reinforced thing. This isn't a flight suit that we're used to seeing these days.
You've heard a plane break the sound barrier, right?
Yes, I know planes break the sound barrier.
Yeah.
Dan.
When you break the sound barrier, you don't actually experience the sound barrier being broken when you're in the device that you're breaking the sound barrier with.
It just means you're going. But Dan, whips break the sound barrier. That's
I wouldn't
part
know,
of what
Alan.
makes the cracking noise.
That's too much information. No, I'm just saying. I could see this going wrong in many ways. I don't know.
Oh, sure. But Dan, you got to remember, the first flight suits, the way they tested those flight suits was by having a guy jump out of a balloon and free fall for a while before parachuting to the ground. The height record was set back in the 50s by test engineers who were testing flight suits. So all this guy is trying to do is essentially, bring that up to date by 60 years or so.
But nobody's ever broken the sound barrier in a suit, right?
Not to my knowledge, no. This will be a first.
Falling from space.
Yeah.
What could possibly go wrong?
Plenty of things could go wrong, but Dan, plenty of things can go wrong crossing a street. This guy is taking careful precautions. The suit's been engineered. The whole test plan has been engineered. They think they know what they're doing. And you know what? This is engineering. If it fails, they've learned something, and the next person who's foolish enough to try
we've got an
succeed.
epic YouTube video.
I'll tell you what, if someone came up to me and said, I have this, and that, and this is why it's going to work, and you could convince me that it's going to work, I would sign up in 2 seconds to do it.
There are a lot of people who would.
Well, you're ballsier than I am because I would not be the first one to jump out of the balloon in space.
There's not really similar, but kind of similar. There's this ride called the Sky Coaster at our local amusement park, and it pulls you up to 160 feet, and you just pull the ripcord and you free fall basically 160 feet, and basically the difference between that and this is just distance, which is at that point, after 160 feet, what is anything else? You can only hit terminal velocity.
I was going to say, what's terminal velocity? I need to go look up terminal velocity compared to the speed of sound.
You can only go as fast as you can go, and once you hit terminal velocity, which is the fastest you can possibly go, you can hit a bunch of trees and survive with no parachute. So.
And does anyone else think it's weird?
No, it's happened. There was this woman that fell out of a plane and hit treetops and survived.
That's true. I had a friend who landed, on a concrete tarmac from several hundred feet up and survived. Anyway,
I have an issue taking seriously the Red Bull Mission Control Center. I don't know.
That's a bad point.
Yeah. Okay, so we all agree the guy's going to commit suicide if he can ever get off the ground.
And we know that you're tuning into it just to watch him do so.
Absolutely. Evel Knievel. Okay, this thing, Alan, before I get...
You're going to have to prompt me. I can no longer see this thing.
Did you look at the Google book deal is good for everyone except Amazon story?
I think I skimmed that one.
Okay, good. You can intro it because I'm going to skim it, but I've got to talk now, so it's hard to skim and talk. Pizza Hut had this promotion, and this was ridiculous, and I want to get you guys' take on this. Pizza Hut had a promotion. They decided they wanted to get someone at the presidential town hall forum, which is a fairly serious moment as people watch to decide who to vote for the next president of the United States. And they wanted to get people to ask, they said the first person who asks whether they like pepperoni or sausage on their pizza would get free Pizza Hut pizza for life.
Dan, I've got 3 words for you on this subject.
Yes,
you
sir.
ready for them?
Sure.
Boxers or briefs.
Okay. But the thing is, that was a spontaneous question from some kid. This wasn't some
spontaneous who had planned it on national TV.
But it wasn't some national restaurant chain embarrassing the nation and the candidates in front of the world and taking up time.
No, the candidates are doing that plenty well on their own.
And also it's one thing for Howard Stern to get his people to prank call Larry King back in the day. But it's a different thing when it's a presidential debate. It's a serious matter that impacts the world, right? Because we keep invading parts of it. I don't think that this is appropriate. And they have, I checked it as of today, they had, they said that in order to let more people participate, not just people in the event, they've moved it to the web. In other words, they're so ashamed that they've, canceled that. But this was a big fail. I don't think it'd be appropriate. Sreek, do you think it's appropriate for a company to say, promote our product in a presidential debate and we'll give you a free product for life if you mention us and draw attention to us when the world is
Dan, everything is fair in capitalism.
Spoken like a true person who came here for a better way of life.
Hey Dan.
Yeah.
If the person asking the question, has a dominant position in asking the question, shouldn't they be able to do whatever they want with their question?
I think what Frank Fahrenkopf said, the chairman of or co-chairman of the Presidential Debate Commission today said that you should be free of outside influences when you choose what question to ask. Go ahead with Kevin's.
Yeah, Kevin's question is great. Presidential debates are serious, but pizza is serious too. Just ask Herman Cain.
Indeed. Papa John's. Quick. Anthony, should what are your thoughts on this? Pizza Hut
I wasn't paying attention.
It's politics. Who pays attention to this BS?
Indeed. Okay. The Google book deal, good for everybody except Amazon, opines, GigaOM. Alan, what do you think?
I'm not even sure where this Amazon thing comes in. Basically what it is Google, it must be like 8 years ago now, was talking about how as part of their effort to digitize old books, which had fallen out of copyright, they were also going to be scanning modern books. And as part of that scanning, it was just so they could be doing searching and indexing, the sorts of things that Google used to be good at. And the American Publishers Association or something like that, and copyright owners sued, saying, hey, Google, you can't do this. That violates our copyright, creating a derivative work, I assume. And they have finally settled with the American Publishers Association for undisclosed terms and undisclosed results. So who knows what that means, but if they settled, then presumably Google's going to be able to scan the books. Because otherwise, why would Google settle? Otherwise, they would just drop it.
It's important to note that aren't all of these out-of-print books, right?
Well, I'm not sure why the publishers would be caring if it was out of print then. Because the publishers aren't actually publishing anything then. I don't know.
We need
that's
to get
actually
a publisher
not a feature
in here at some
that's
point,
not something
or
that was
someone
clear
who's
to
an
me.
expert on this, because I see that there's obvious value in sort of creating an online Library of Congress, right?
Reading through this a little more, it does. Reading through this a little more, it does reference what happens to orphan books, what happens to books where the copyright holder can't be found. These were issues that were brought up before when Google thought it had settled the deal, and it got rejected in court. Yes, there's a great deal of advantage to having, an indexed Library of Congress, so that even if Google can't publish the book themselves, they'd be providing an index to it. Certainly there's advantages to that. Certainly if then Google had the right to be able to sell these books and distribute the proceeds of the money in some fashion, whatever that fashion might be, somebody somewhere would be profiting from a book that otherwise would be sitting nowhere. The concern, though, and it's a legitimate concern, is, hey, wait a minute, we have copyright law, and that copyright doesn't just expire just because the book is out of print. It's a delicate balancing act, and I think Google saying, hey, let's put every single book back in print is noble unless you're the copyright holder and you don't want it in print.
We should move on because,
it's
what's their game here?
Google's game is the same as the game as it's always been. They want to be able to
control the world's
the world's knowledge.
Okay, data.
None of lies.
Okay. See, you're such a Sreek. All right.
What?
All right. Okay. This is interesting.
What's interesting about this? This is the same day delivery that we've been talking about like every other week.
Yeah, but the new thing is Walmart's doing this thing in Northern Virginia and a few other markets where you'll be able to basically Walmart's going to deliver stuff to you. It's got to be something that's in your local Walmart. And if you order it that morning, you'll get it that day via UPS. And we were speculating about Amazon getting into, because they've been experimenting with these lockers that they put up in certain metro markets as a test, where you can order something from Amazon. And the problem is, like someone like Sreek, well, not Sreek's a bad example. If you're a single guy or woman and you're at work or whatever, and UPS comes and you miss them, it's a hassle. So some 7-Elevens are setting up, they're getting Amazon, a wall of Amazon lockers, and you can buy stuff from Amazon, and they deliver it to the lockers, so like an apartment building's mailbox system. And then, but Walmart is actually going to deliver stuff. So it's interesting because the correlation is, I speculated months and months ago on this topic that I bet Amazon would make a deal for same-day delivery of Amazon products in select markets, that would logistically work. And I think I think that's where it's going. The only reason you would use online is for convenience or cost savings, and the retailers are gonna try to compete on the same things. You're seeing the Best Buy, although there's lots of asterisks on their policy, but they're sort of quasi gonna meet Amazon's prices this time. But I just thought that was interesting.
You do know that Amazon has categorically said that they're no longer going to do same-day delivery, right?
I don't know that.
Yeah, one of their top executives said basically categorically that they had given up on that concept for the time being.
Interesting. And
have a reference to that, Anthony, and we'll feature it in next week's Google Plus.
Absolutely. That's I wonder. I'm guessing that's maybe 70% accurate, 30% Steve Jobs saying 7-inch tablets suck, and we'll never do one. And then I don't know. It could be a diversion or not.
But speaking of Walmart,
yeah. Speaking of Walmart, there are some issues. Not everybody who works there is happy, apparently, and they have. I'll get your guys' take on this, but I did a story a couple years ago or several years ago about 08, 09 when when we got a super Walmart here in Front Royal, Virginia, and I talked to the guy, and I remember he said that the health, he described the health benefits that they get, and I looked, and they said that apparently it's a little bit better than what Target actually offers. Now, they've improved. Walmart has a history of reacting to pressure on things like health benefits, on things like environment, like trying to put sunroofs in so they don't have to keep lights, as many lights on, that sort of thing. And they've also ingratiated themselves with the environmental lobby in terms of they have pressured their manufacturers overseas to use, more environmentally friendly procedures or whatever. So there was supposed to be some big announcement or whatever, but I'm not sure exactly what that was at the annual meeting. The CEO said basically, well, we hope we don't disrupt Black Friday, but that's the plan. Apparently, for the first time ever, there are no unionized Walmarts in the United States, and strikes are apparently breaking out for the first time in multiple cities across the country, and there's rumors of a national sort of strike, walkout or whatever on Black Friday. So this is obviously interesting because Walmart has famously been non-union, and I've never seen this sort of thing. And my observation, and let me, I'll start with Alan. Then I want to go to get Anthony's thoughts on this because he works with a different major retailer. And I remember when that store opened, and 4 years ago or 5 years ago, whatever it was. And when I go on there today, I see many, many of the same people working there voluntarily, right? Nobody held a gun to their head. And so, Alan, from 10,000 feet in the air, I know you're not a Walmart person, but what do you think?
I have deeply studied this situation.
Do you care at all? Should I just go to Anthony?
In my professional opinion, well, I this is what a union is, basically. This is why they call it organized labor, because sometimes they actually organize. Rarely, mind you, but sometimes they actually organize.
What's interesting is so many people are impacted by Walmart. Do you have Walmarts where you are? Because I know in some big cities, they keep them out.
Yes.
What's your my first thought would be, oh God, I hope they don't have to raise the prices at Walmart because of these angry workers. You know what I mean? I mean, just being selfish. That was my first thought. What's your first thought? Because most people.
I'll be honest, I didn't have a first thought.
You could care less. You're waiting for the next topic.
It's not so much that I could care less, but it's one of those issues that is going to play out, and that's really what it boils down to. It's going to play out. It's an interesting angle from a number of directions, at a time that organized labor is under severe attack from all sorts of fronts. That here's a bunch of people who are self-organizing. It's
Anthony,
really what it boils down to.
Anthony, what are your thoughts? Were you surprised? Do you think this is a mountain out of a molehill, or do you think this is a big thing? Do you think it has ramifications beyond Walmart? Any thoughts at all?
I try to keep away from the union news because I'm very staunchly against unions. I think that they're bad for business. I think they're bad for the economy. I work for Wegmans, and Wegmans is very staunch about keeping unions out of the stores. They do have the truck union, truck driver unions, but as far as the stores go, there are absolutely no unions, and they work very hard to keep them out. But to that point, Wegmans pays some of the best, gives some of the best paychecks in the industry. So, I don't know. I think that unions are just bad.
Quick question, Anthony, how many years have you been at Wegmans?
I'm coming up on 9.
Would you, quick question, would you describe the turnover at your store as high turnover, low turnover, or middle of the road?
Are we talking involuntary turnover or voluntary turnover?
Involuntary.
I would say it's.
I mean, voluntary turnover. I'm sorry. Like, do people tend to stay once they get in if they're good? If they don't get
involuntary
canned?
Was a much more amusing answer.
Indeed. True. That's a good point.
I mean,
do people tend to are your coworkers happy?
Yeah, my coworkers are very happy. A lot of them are college students, so once they're done with college, they go on to not grocery store jobs. So.
All right, Sreek, a quick comment on this or not? I don't know if you want
to. Generally about union or generally about organized labor?
Okay. Well, Alan, comment from a viewer.
Well, I have to add this. I have
go
seen
ahead.
With the extreme severe bad things about organized labor. I mean, organized, whatever it's called, in where I was born. But at the same time, when I came to America, I also see the extreme severe corporate manipulation of everything else. So I do think that organization for fundamental rights for a laborer is good, but it's very difficult. Once you organize people and they realize their power, they're going to actually demand more. That's what happened with many unions across this country. So it is very difficult to actually have a middle line. If they understand that they have a lot of power, they will completely destroy. Let me give you a simple example. The home state where I was born, it's called Kerala. Anybody can look it up. It's the first democratically elected, this is important, democratically elected communist government in the world. 100% literacy. Healthcare comparable to Washington and New York City. Go to the Wikipedia page. But not a single industry, because any multinational company comes in, they set up shop. Next thing they know, there is a Marxist party, Communist Party union, and next thing they know, they strike, lockouts, factory lockouts. The company leaves in 6 months to a neighboring state, which has got all the facilities. They even give cheaper land, everything, just to promote industry. So every single educated and employed person in my state actually goes out. I'm a prime example to somewhere else where we can work hard. But if you look at what's happening in America, I work in the heart of capitalism, and I'm telling you, I'm telling you that extreme capitalism is also really bad.
But you wouldn't go back.
Why should I? You want me to go back, Dan?
No. No, I've been there.
I would love to see a middle line somewhere, but it's almost impossible.
All right, let me.
You know what, Sreek? That is the best way to express the issue that I have ever heard from anybody.
Thank you. I have experience of both extremes, so
I think it's a great way to put it. Let me wrap this up with this comment from Diana. So let me guess, Walmart is rolling out the frowny face.
Indeed, they are. Okay, I'm going to summarize the last few topics real quick, and the links will be down below in most cases. There was a story out there that said that I think CNN or somebody ran it, and then it went viral, or whoever ran it. But when you Googled completely wrong, you would get page after page of Romney pictures. And the mainstream media, being clueless, made this a news story. Well, if right after, an hour after the vice presidential debate, you had Googled malarkey, which was a prominent line there, you would have gotten a bunch of Biden pics, and that's just the way search works. And but it was a fun story, and it got a lot of traction. I posted it, and people were talking about it. Another thing I posted about, and there's a link below here to that post is I was searching for a friend of mine had a box for an old Toshiba laptop or whatever you call it back 20 years ago. It was a 386SX, a Toshiba satellite, whatever model number. So I Googled the model number because I was curious what exactly how old it was. Because
you wanted to figure out if you could run your video processing on it.
Exactly. I was trying to improve Sreek's image on the show. But seriously, what I was doing was I was just curious to see how old it was because on the box it said, it's color. And I was like, whoa, this is old. And so I took a picture of it just because I thought it'd be interesting. Just like I have an old AOL user manual over here I posted once. So, but the thing is, when I posted it at the bottom, I saw from Amazon and from another company, Buy Cheap or something, it said you can great savings on the Toshiba satellite and the exact model number. Click here. Now, I knew that was an algorithm generating that, but I think it's wrong that they're allowed to do that. I think that if you're trying, if you Googled, I want to buy a new Ford Model T, Amazon shouldn't be able to say on Google search results, buy a great savings on a new Model T.
But Dan, shouldn't Amazon be able to use its dominant market position to sell to say whatever they want?
They should be able to find related search results. For example, they should be able to say, first of all, this is on Google search.
But Dan,
Amazon's a paying customer. And anybody, any of it, they just were the top bidder. But
that's a Mitt Romney fan is changing his position. Go ahead, Dan.
No.
I'm just kidding.
It's not at all. But it's if they want to say find parts for your Model T, great savings on those. That's fine. Model T sunroofs, Model T paint, genuine whatever accessories.
But Dan.
But don't say you can buy a new Model T.
Shouldn't they be able to use their dominant position to say whatever they want?
This is not analogous, and I have to pee, and you have to go, and Sreek has to go. It's not no, it's not. It's misleading. Anyway, I'm right and they're wrong. Okay, so now that we all agree on that, there's a good story. I'll let you read it, but how live blogging was invented. It's interesting that it was a reporter, if this is to be believed, but David Carr from the New York Times shared this on Twitter, and he's the guy who's featured in the Page One documentary, which you should watch if you have Netflix. It's great. But David Carr shared this, and this guy was there was the Republican convention, the Democrat convention, and the Democrat convention was first, and so he Alan is distracting me yet again. They secured a press credential to the Democrat convention, but not to the Republican convention. So he was stuck at home, unable to do anything, and his publication only printed every week. So he had nothing to do. So he went to his personal blog, and these from, I guess this was from 2000 or something, but Dennis Hastert was speaker, and the first ever live blog, in other words, like when you post repeatedly, update an event, like live blogging a debate or something, but he was doing the convention at 7:23 p.m. There's a video of a fat guy dressed in an old 18th century clothes introducing the not as fat House Speaker Dennis Hastert, introducing the night's nonsense videotape, a remote camera. And then at 7:25, they found a black Republican, 3 reports say, and he's the first human speaker. He may be the last, CNN says. This shows the GOP's new commitment to diversity. There are no visible minorities among the delegates and guests on the floor. And what was interesting is it's a very funny read. And again, it's in the comments on the video. You'll see the link toward the bottom. Prefacing this, he said, next came what was apparently the first time-stamped live blog, wise-ass remark by a lower-rung journalist about a nationally televised political event. So that was kind of just a little bit of history there. And but it's a really funny read. I recommend you try it. And then I thought it was really funny. Our last topic is just to get you guys' take on what you thought of the debate. But Obama, the Obama campaign, during the debate, I was watching the debate and I saw this thing pop up in one of my Twitter flashes that they had bought the term malarkey because Joe Biden said during the debate, there was all these searches like, what does malarkey mean? BS is what it means, but or nonsense or whatever you want to say. But the Obama campaign actually bought the term on Twitter during the debate, like right afterward. They bought several other terms. And so if you search for, or if you type malarkey in Twitter search, you would see a paid ad for Obama because they knew what you were looking for. So I'm actually impressed at their IT skills there. And just a quick thing, and then we'll close. But Alan, my observation on the debate was I thought both candidates did well. I thought the moderator... Did you watch the debate, Alan?
No.
You didn't watch it?
No.
Oh, well. Did you watch it, Sreek?
Oh, I watched it.
Did you really not watch it, Alan?
I really didn't watch it, Dan. You poor... My friend, I cannot even begin to tell you how ridiculous that is.
I don't understand what you're saying to me.
Nothing. I'm making fun of Joe Biden.
Okay.
No, I didn't watch the debate. I don't care. I honestly don't.
All right, hang on one sec. Sreek. Did you watched it or part of it? What'd you do?
I watched the last half of it when you actually told me, and then I went back and watched the whole thing.
Okay. So my thought, and I'll get your take on it, because I know you're a Biden fan more than a Ryan fan.
No, I'm not a fan of any politician for that matter, but I have my principles. Go ahead.
All right. I thought both candidates did well. I thought what Biden needed to do...
You have your principles unlike, politicians.
Exactly.
There you go.
They do. They have their own principles, but...
Politicians can have principles, but they also have goals, and the goals... The things they have to do for the goals usually outweigh the things, or take precedence over the things they have to do for the principles.
Anthony and I have interesting political arguments all the time.
Real quick, I think what Biden needed to do, I thought, first of all, Martha, is it Raddatz or Raddatz, was fantastic. And I tweeted, or I posted on Google Plus, A Star is Born today. She was absolutely fantastic. She did a great job moderating the debate. She reined them in when necessary. She kept the conversation moving. At the same time, she didn't do it in a way to draw attention to herself, but merely to extract more information on more topics from the candidates to make them shine the way we want them to. I thought it was fantastic. A Star was Born. She was a great moderator.
Great, yes.
So, also, I thought what Biden had to do was stop the slight change in the polls. We're calling it a free fall or hemorrhaging. Really, it's from 46 to 44. I mean, it's not a big change. It's a small change, and temporary. But I think he stopped that, and that's what his mission was. He gave a very forceful argument. I think he'll motivate the president to be stronger in his next debate. I thought what Ryan had to do was to appear to be credible. He could not out-debate Joe Biden when in a roundtable discussion like that. Joe Biden's been doing that for 40 years on Meet the Press and all these places. You're not going to beat Joe at that game. So he had to hold his own. He had to appear competent. And we've lost Sreek. So hopefully Sreek will come back and whatever.
You have bored everyone to tears, Dan.
I know. We've lost everybody. But, so you don't care about any of that stuff. So do you have any
It's not that I don't care. It's just I really have no interest in watching these foolish debates. It's a waste of my time.
It was a great debate.
I have better things to do, like sleep.
It was a great debate. But if you're not interested in it, that's cool.
I heard tons of summaries of it today. It wasn't a great debate.
It was, well, having watched it and live blogged it, it was great. Okay, so final thoughts.
Final thoughts,
on Google
Dan.
Plus.
How was your Google Plus week?
My Google Plus week was, it was great. It was interesting.
Sorry, I was frozen.
It's okay. We'll go to you and we'll close. It was great. It was fun. It was Met a couple new people. But go ahead, Sreek. Did you have a...
Yeah, my honest opinion is, I think Ryan did better than I expected him to do, and he didn't have to tell too many lies. But here's the thing, you know. We mentioned credibility, right? In my view, Ryan lacks any credibility. He doesn't have credibility. Let me tell you this why. Because how do you criticize stimulus publicly?
I don't want to get into a whole policy thing. I want to talk, just analyze just because we got to go and we got time.
Right,
go ahead, quick.
Only
go ahead.
Because you mentioned credibility. That's all. But so I think he lacks complete credibility. I'm not saying that Joe Biden is a very credible person either. Whether Joe Biden acted as an attack dog and and whether he shouldn't have laughed or smirked or whatever. You know what? The last debate, I thought Obama wanted to appear very civilized and try to talk things, but Romney interrupted the president like 40 times or something. So he set the stage, right? So
James Carville said it best. Romney showed up with a chainsaw.
Yes. So
and Obama was.
I don't understand.
He said he was too polite, or whatever you want to call it.
And I completely agreed. Romney won the
Romney
debate.
brought his A game, and Obama did not.
Correct.
And in this case, Biden was on.
Agrees.
Yeah.
Everybody agrees that Romney did whatever forceful, fistful thing he could do, and he won the debate, and he got a bump, right? Now, if Biden does the same, why is it so bad? Forget about whether the show was, who won, who lost, everything.
There's nothing wrong. I thought both guys did well.
Yeah,
and the moderator, it was a great debate, and we got to close. But it was a great debate. Both candidates did well. I thought if you had to pick a winner, Biden won because he delivered a surprisingly strong performance given what was expected, and also he appears to he has likely stopped the drop in the polls. Whereas what Ryan really didn't accomplish anything except did well.
Hang in there. That's what I would say. He hung in there pretty well. He couldn't handle Joe Biden on a full-blown Joe Biden, but that's the years of experience, and as you said, all this.
Absolutely. Final thoughts.
To be very honest, I thought Ryan did better than I expected him to do.
Awesome. Final thoughts, Alan Furstenberg, on anything.
What? You waking me up from my nap here? What?
I think Alan's going to moderate the next debate because they can't work out the licensing with Big Bird.
Well, but here's the thing. I wouldn't be able to moderate the next debate for the simple reason that nobody's going to show up because Google doesn't care one bit about their consumers. Okay, fine, we got it, we good. That was my Google Plus week.
Why did you do this when you were interviewing Wick?
We're gonna
because I want to be able to interview him again in the future. That's why.
Craig Ship and I are going to go halvesies on with Amazon Prime to buy Alan a compressor for audio. So when he goes off on his things, it's not overmodulated. Hey, this was a fun show. I appreciate you guys watching, and we'll continue very briefly with the after show, maybe if these guys want to. But we are every Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time USA, 5 p.m. Pacific Time USA. Changes between midnight and 1 a.m. GMT. I'm not sure which it is right now. But
midnight.
We love it's midnight now. So when we do our crazy thing, it'll be 1 a.m. And but we love your comments, and we read all of them, and we talk about a lot of them on the show. But thank you so much for watching. We appreciate it. And I want to, on behalf of our whole panel, everyone who participated tonight, we want to wish
all three of us tonight.
All
three of us who survived till the end.
True. And Dad's Echo, the blue-green.
We want to wish all of you a very, very wonderful Google Plus week.